Chapter 5086. Xiao Hua and the others heard Qin Yi's words clearly. Xiao Hua shook his head slightly and said word by word, "Some people can be forgiven but some people can't be forgiven. Forgiving a good person who made a mistake can reap good results, but forgiving a bad person who came to his senses can only reap bad results." Qin Yi still wanted to argue, but Yuanya had already taken out his devil spear. Oh, whoa. Devil Qi surged out amidst the cries of ghosts and howls of wolves. It had already covered 100 miles around them. In the blink of an eye, all the evil Qi, all the schemes, all the grudges and all the schemes turned into nothing. The dragon-like devil spear was retracted, and the thousands of layers of devil Qi were also absorbed into the devil spear. Under the devil Qi, Zhen Qing and the others were revealed. Yuanya's spear had already shocked them. They had never thought that there would be such powerful cultivators in the world. Those were two nascent soul masters, dozens of Golden Core Realm and Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators. They were much stronger than an ordinary sect. In just one spear strike they had all turned into ashes. I've let you be stained with blood again." Xiao Hua looked at Yuanya retracting his devil spear and suppressing his cultivation. Xiao Hua sighed and said, "But if I were to do it, I wouldn't be able to do it. Master is benevolent and doesn't like blood. Moreover, they are too weak. How can I let Master do it? Let disciple do it for you." Yuanya said nonchalantly, "This kind of slaughter is also beneficial to disciples' cultivation. And Master understands?" Xiao Hua said and once again sealed Yuanya's cultivation to the Golden Core Realm. Taoist Master. It really is Taoist Master Xiao. The unparalleled Taoist Master Xiao. Unlike Zhen Qing and the others who were panicking, Jianghu was filled with reverence. He couldn't help but exclaim, "With Taoist Master, our fortune gate will definitely be the number one." Suddenly, Jianghu realized that it was inappropriate and quickly shut his mouth. He looked at Zhen Qing awkwardly. Xiao Hua frowned and looked at Jianghu. "What do you mean? Are you a spy sent by the fortune gate to the Imperial Lightning Sect?" Jianghu hurriedly knelt down and said, "Tao Master, Junior is indeed a disciple of the Imperial Lightning Sect, not a disciple of the Fortune Gate. However, this Junior's family has received Taoist Master's grace, and this Junior's family regards Taoist Master as a living Holy Spirit. Although this Junior cannot enter the Fortune Gate, this Junior, like many other cultivators, regards himself as a Fortune Gate disciple." See. Xiao Hua suddenly realized something and sucked in a breath of cold air. He already understood why Qin Yi, who clearly knew that he was Xiao Hua and didn't have any confidence, insisted on attacking him. Even if she couldn't capture him, she still wanted to kill him. "Senior?" Sun Qian hurriedly said, "Please don't blame Jianghu. This situation happened in the Tao cultivation sects of the 3 cultivation nations. No, it even happened in the sword sect of the Huan nation. After all, enlightened Master's grace back then spread throughout the entire world." Xiao Hua nodded and said, "This old man understands. If it was someone else, perhaps they wouldn't have so much momentum, but this old man's cultivation method is a bit special." At this point, Xiao Hua suddenly realized that something was wrong and hurriedly said with a smile, "Sun Qian, you don't have to call me senior, just call me Taoist Xiao." "Yes, Taoist Xiao." A shy look appeared on Sun Qian's pretty face. However, she did not loosen her grip on Zhen Qing's hand. Sun Qian had used her strength as her armor and stubbornness to protect herself all her life. When she tore her mask off, she cherished the affection she had just received more than anyone else. Senior brother?" Sun Shu said with a slight groan, Aren't you too low-key? I thought you were at most a cultivator in the middle or late nascent soul stage, but I didn't expect your disciple to be so powerful. I don't even know what realm he is at. What realm are you at?" Xiao Hua looked at Sun Shu with a smile and said, "Is it important what realm I am at? The important thing is that no matter what realm I am at, I am still your senior brother, okay?" I like that." Sun Shu giggled and said, "If." Unfortunately, just as Sun Shu said those 2 words, the expression in her eyes changed and she didn't continue. Instead, she changed the topic and said, "If senior brother gives me some more benefits, I will like it even more." Isn't that simple?" Xiao Hua didn't hesitate and took out a storage pouch and handed it to her. "This is for you." "Senior brother, I was just joking." Sun Shu was naturally joking. She wanted to cover up what she almost said just now, but seeing that Xiao Hua took it seriously, she was a little embarrassed. Xiao Hua smiled and said, "Even if you didn't say it, I would still give it to you. We haven't seen each other for so many years, no matter what, there should be some greeting gift, right?" Then thank you, senior brother." Sun Shu and Xiaohua had experience together, so she naturally knew Xiaohua's temper. She didn't hold back and casually took the storage pouch and put it away without looking at it. Xiaohua then looked at Zhen Qing, who had been silent all this time, and thought for a moment before saying, "Martial Uncle, Junior won't give you cultivation techniques or golden cores for the time being. Junior will give you some spiritual items to replenish your lifespan first. Once your lifespan is replenished, Junior will help you conceive a baby. After you conceive a baby, everything will be fine." As he said that, Xiaohua took out a few immortal peaches and gave them to Zhen Qing, Sun Qian, and even Sun Shu and Zhenyu. "Spiritual Master, what is this?" Zhenyu held the immortal peach and was a little puzzled. He asked, "This thing can replenish my lifespan?" "This is an immortal peach." Xiaohua explained, "It can replenish some of your lifespan, but it varies from person to person. Of course you don't need it now, so you might as well keep it first and use it later. Your task now is to clean up the storage pouches and flying boats of the cultivators of Tongmu City and hand them over to Martial Uncle Zhen Qing." Okay. Zhenyu was overjoyed when he heard that. He kept the immortal peach and happily went to clean up the mess. "Should I keep it too?" Sun Shu thought for a moment and said, "After all, I have already taken the rejuvenation pill before." "Eat it," Xiaohua said in a low voice. "I have a lot of these things here. Just treat it as a taste of something new." Xiaohua's words made Sun Shu recall some memories. She held back the redness in her eyes and nodded, "Yes, senior martial brother." Then she took a bite of the immortal peach and let the sweet juice and the joy of reunion seep into her heart. Zhen Qing looked at Xiaohua with a complicated gaze. Back then he was the first to discover that Xiaohua was Wu Ming. That kind of shock hadn't happened for hundreds of years. Now that he met Xiaohua again, the shock was 100 times stronger than before. He didn't know how to face this high-level cultivator who was so respectful to him. Xiaohua's disciple could easily kill nascent soul Chen Yi. Xiaohua's strength. Perhaps even the Imperial Thunder Sect master couldn't compare to him. Of course, other than being shocked, Zhen Qing also felt guilty about Chen Yi's death. Zhen Qing was an indecisive person, but at the same time he was also a sentimental person. Because of this he had delayed himself and delayed Sun Qian. Now Chen Yi died in front of him. In an instant, all the memories of his life with Chen Yi flooded his mind. No one knew Zhen Qing better than Sun Qian. Sun Qian didn't say anything and just silently looked at Zhen Qing. This was the so-called deep hatred of love. After half a cup of tea, Zhenyu returned and respectfully handed over some storage bags. He said, "Martial ancestor." "Oh?" Zhen Qing came back to his senses and responded. He looked at the storage bags and asked, "Zhenyu, where are the corpses of the cultivators in Twilight Tong City? Why are they gone?" "Martial ancestor." Zhenyu hurriedly replied, "Disciple didn't see any corpses. There were only storage bags, magic tools, flying boats and other things." "Martial uncle, don't worry." Xiaohua hurriedly explained, "Although the corpses are gone, Yuanya only killed them and didn't erase their primordial spirits. The souls of these cultivators have already entered the cycle of reincarnation." Alright, I understand." Zhen Qing sighed and said to Zhenyu, "These are all Taoist Zhaos. It's better to let Taoist Xiao take them." Xiaohua smiled and said, "Martial ancestor, the so-called knot in one's heart is something that can't be removed. Since that's the case, it's better to put it aside. It's useless to think too much about it. As for these mortal things, I gave them to Martial ancestor. Martial ancestor didn't like them, so I'll let Zhenyu take them first and distribute them to Martial ancestor's disciples later. And we'll do as Taoist Xiao said." Sun Qian couldn't stand it anymore. She clenched her hand and said, "Let Zhenyu take them first." "Yes, I understand." When Zhenyu heard that, he happily kept the storage pouch. Sun Shu urged, "Martial ancestor, quick, this immortal peach is very good." As he said that, Sun Shu casually looked through the storage bags that Xiaohua gave him. When he looked through them, he was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. Xiaohua noticed it and turned to look at Sun Shu. He nodded his head slightly. Sun Shu also smiled and carefully hid the storage bags. Since Zhen Qing didn't eat the immortal peach, Sun Qian naturally wouldn't eat it either. Although Zhen Qing's mood wasn't good, he still ate the immortal peach. Zhen Qing's cultivation was shallow and he couldn't feel that his lifespan was being replenished. However, when the immortal peach entered his mouth, a warm current rushed through his body. The warm feeling came from his heart. "Zhen Qing!" Sun Qian exclaimed, Your hair. What's wrong?" Zhen Qing didn't expect the immortal peach's effect to be so obvious. He didn't react for a moment and asked in astonishment. The heavens have eyes. Sun Qian was so happy that she cried. She hurriedly waved her right hand and a mirror appeared. In the mirror, Zhen Qing's white hair turned black and the wrinkles on his forehead also calmed down. Of course, after a few breaths, his hair stopped turning black and returned to the familiar white color. But even so, Xiaohua understood that Zhen Qing's lifespan had been replenished. As long as Zhen Qing stepped into the nascent soul realm within 100 years, he wouldn't have a problem living for another 1,000 years. Vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, gift it, and... Chapter 5087. Alas, it's no wonder that cultivators risk their lives and use unscrupulous means to advance. Xiaohua sighed with emotion as he inwardly said, the lifespan of an ordinary aura-refining cultivator is only 200 years. When they advance to the foundation-building realm, their lifespan will increase to 400 years. When they advance to the gold core realm, their lifespan will increase to 800 years. When they condense their nascent soul and communicate with heaven and earth, their lifespan will even increase to 2,000 years. In the face of such temptation, who would be able to maintain their Tao heart? Not only that, just as Sun Qian finished speaking, Sun Qian herself was startled. She looked at Zhen Qing in disbelief. Zhen Qing didn't understand. Xiaohua, who was at the side, smiled and said, congratulations, fellow Taoist. Since the knot in your heart is gone and your Tao realm has improved, you will definitely be pregnant within 10 years. Is that so? Zhen Qing smiled and looked at Sun Qian. Your wish has finally come true. Isn't it because... Sun Qian was about to reply, but Zhen Qing's body suddenly trembled, and a surprised expression appeared on her face. Xiaohua had no choice but to congratulate him once again. Congratulations, Martial Uncle. Since you're able to let go, you'll be able to jump out of this world. Within 10 years you'll definitely be able to conceive a nascent soul. Sun Qian and Zhen Qing had been trapped in love for a long time, but they couldn't compare to Qin Yi who had severed their love long ago, so they couldn't conceive a baby for a long time. Now that Xiaohua had killed Qin Yi, the knot in their hearts was forcibly broken. Especially the immortal peaches were the essence of heaven and earth. After the two of them ate the immortal peaches, the laws of heaven and earth had already quietly merged into their Jindan. Conceiving a baby was only a matter of time. Congratulations, Martial Uncle. Congratulations, Martial Uncle. Sun Shu and Zhen Yu hurriedly went up to congratulate her. Zhen Qing's character was upright and she had always loved and cared for her disciples. Thus, Zhen Yu and the others congratulated her from the bottom of their hearts. Zhen Qing, who had just escaped death, smiled and helped the two of them up. He smiled and said, this old man is useless. I haven't had a breakthrough in my cultivation for a long time. You two need to work harder. Don't be like this old man. Yes, we understand. Sun Shu and Zhen Yu stood up. Zhen Qing then looked at Xiaohua and asked, Taoist, are you still going with us to the Ardent Fire Mountain? It seemed like Zhen Qing had already understood that it wasn't a coincidence that Xiaohua had met him. Xiaohua smiled. Since Zhen Qing didn't point it out, he wouldn't explain either. Thus he replied, of course, this junior does indeed have some karma with the Ardent Fire Mountain. This time I might as well settle it. Alright, with Zhenren, this old man has a plan in mind. This time we won't embarrass the Imperial Thunder sect. Zhen Qing said with relief. Senior uncle, please. Seeing that Zhen Yu had already released the flying boat, Xiaohua hurriedly invited Zhen Qing onto the flying boat. Zhen Qing hesitated for a moment, but she didn't decline. She nodded and pulled Xiaohua onto the flying boat. Sun Qian carefully followed behind. It was rare for someone as stubborn as her to be so obedient. The flying boat once again soared into the sky. Sun Shu asked curiously from the side, Senior apprentice brother, why do you still have a dispute with the Ardent Fire Mountain? Are they the three elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain that I met during the Great Sword Battle? Oh, it's a long story. Seeing that the airboat was not moving fast, Xiaohua knew that there was still a long way to go before they arrived at the Ardent Fire Mountain. Although he didn't need to talk about the three continents, it didn't matter if he told Shui about his experiential learning. Therefore he told her about his fate with the Ardent Fire Mountain. Since Xiaohua took the initiative to mention Shui, Sun Shu also couldn't avoid it. After Xiaohua finished speaking, Sun Shu probed, Senior apprentice brother, do you already know about senior apprentice sister? Shui was a foundation establishment disciple and Wu Hen was a golden core cultivator. Both of them had life spirit tablets in the Imperial Thunder sect. When the two of them died, the Imperial Thunder sect would discover it. Therefore, Sun Shu already knew that Shui was no longer in this world. And? Xiaohua nodded. Shui died for me. How come I didn't know about it? Senior apprentice sister is really powerful. Sun Shu suddenly understood something and whispered, I can't compare with her. There's no need to compare. Xiaohua smiled and said, everyone is different. Just be yourself. When? Zhen Qing asked. The two of us are the same. Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, that day when Junior left the Imperial Thunder Sect, Junior discovered that two nascent soul cultivators were chasing Junior. Junior was unable to escape no matter how hard Junior tried. In the end, Master and Xue Xue suddenly appeared and self-detonated to trap the two of them. Junior was able to escape. Zhen Qing frowned. Clearly she didn't understand why Xue Xue and Wu Hen suddenly appeared. However, Xiaohua was a member of the government. Zhen Qing could not believe his words. Moreover, this involved the two people closest to Xiaohua. Xiaohua definitely wouldn't lie. Therefore, Zhen Qing continued to ask, what about the two nascent soul cultivators? Why were they chasing you? Those two nascent soul cultivators have already fallen. Xiaohua replied, from the beginning to the end they didn't reveal their identity. Junior doesn't know who they are and also doesn't know why they were chasing Junior. Damn it. Zhen Qing recalled that day when Xiaohua was expelled from the Imperial Thunder Sect and was chased by two nascent soul cultivators. Her heart was filled with anger and she cursed in a low voice. What about now? Sun Qian was also worried about Xiaohua and asked. Xiaohua pursed his lips and smiled. This is the reason why Junior wanted to hide his cultivation. This Junior wants to know, who is it that is so interested in this Junior? Sun Shu said curiously, Senior Brother has already seen those two nascent soul cultivators. With Senior Brother's current strength, it shouldn't be difficult for you to find those two missing nascent soul cultivators, right? And this is of course simple. Xiaohua nodded. However, Senior Brother still has more important things to do. Moreover, this matter. Senior Brother doesn't need to do it personally. Presumably, someone has already investigated it. Senior Brother can just find someone to ask. What Senior Brother wants to do now is to find the mastermind behind these missing nascent soul cultivators. Senior Brother wants to lure the snake out of its hole. Sun Shu understood and said with a smile, Senior Brother has always been low-key. Even for such an important matter, you still handle it this way. There are many ways to solve this problem. Xiaohua said with a smile, with Senior Brother's current strength, it's even easier. Senior Brother can find the truth with any method. Senior Brother just casually found one. That's true. Sun Shu glanced at Yuanya who didn't speak much and said with some jealousy, Senior Brother has such a powerful disciple who can casually sweep across the Dawn Rain continent. Then there's no need to care about the method. After saying that, Sun Shu was curious and asked, Senior Brother, how many of such disciples do you have? Not many, only 6. Xiaohua didn't hide and replied with a smile. So many? Sun Shu said in surprise, are they as powerful as Yuanya? And more or less. Xiaohua knew that this was a chat and said without hiding anything, some are more powerful than him and some are worse than him. Senior Brother, you really have the momentum of sweeping across the Dawn Rain continent. Sun Shu couldn't help but cry out, then her eyes turned and asked tentatively, how about this, Senior Brother, you let your disciple accept me as a disciple? Sun Shu's feelings for Xiaohua were also deep, but in front of Xue Xue, Sun Shu still tactfully hid these thoughts. Now that Xue Xue had fallen, Sun Shu was even more moved by Xue Xue's fearless love. Her love couldn't help but sprout, so this sentence was also a kind of test. Who knew that Xiaohua's reaction was far beyond her expectations? Xiaohua raised his hand slightly and placed it on Sun Shu's head, rubbing her hair and said with a smile, you are this Xiao's little sister. What do you want to cultivate? This Senior Brother can teach you. Why do you need to take them as your master? Logically speaking, they should be able to call you martial aunt. Yes, Senior Brother, this junior sister understands. Sun Shu's heart ached. She knew that she couldn't be compared to Xue Xue in this life. Although she agreed, the disappointment in her heart was far greater than the joy in her mouth. Seeing Xiaohua cut off Sun Shu's feelings so neatly, Sun Qian at the side sighed with emotion. She looked at Zhen Qing beside her and understood that if Zhen Qing was like this a few years ago, things wouldn't have ended up like this. However, looking at Sun Shu's disappointment and thinking about her own gains, Sun Qian sighed with emotion and also felt happy. Zhen Qing pondered, but she only put this thought aside and asked with a smile, Xiaohua, where have you been cultivating in seclusion these past few years? Why is there no news at all? In other realms. Xiaohua knew that Zhen Qing was concerned, but he still smiled and said, This matter will be known by Martial Uncle in the future. This junior won't waste time talking about it. Zhen Qing nodded. Xiao Hua was afraid that he would ask too much, so he thought for a moment and said, Martial Uncle, back then you gave this junior your understanding of core condensation, which was extremely helpful to this junior's cultivation. Now that this junior has taken a step earlier, I will also share my understanding with Martial Uncle. Yet you steer the boat and let Zhen Yu point out the direction. Yes, master. Yuanyu replied and asked for the direction of Ardent Fire Mountain. He urged the flying boat to fly faster than before. Zhen Qing, Sun Qian, Sun Shu and Zhen Yu sat on the flying boat and listened to Xiao Hua's detailed explanation. Xiao Hua's explanation was naturally different from the others. He could see the flaws in each person's cultivation and where they needed to be supplemented. Therefore, although it seemed that he was talking to the four of them, each of them listened as if he was exhorting them. They really benefited a lot. Even after 10 days, when Ardent Fire Mountain was already in sight, they were still immersed in the enlightenment and did not hear anything. Xiao Hua stopped and said with a smile, Martial Uncle, we are already near Ardent Fire Mountain. You can inform the Fire Qilin now. Zhen Qing and the others were listening to the wonderful part. Xiao Hua suddenly stopped and felt a little embarrassed. Sun Shu could not help but beg, Senior Martial Brother, please talk for another half a day. This little sister is listening with enthusiasm. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua shook his head and said, It's not that I don't want to talk, but this kind of explanation is far from ending. If I don't talk about it until you step into the Mahayana realm and ascend to the immortal realm, you will never feel satisfied. Then how about another half a day? Zhen Qing could not help but ask. Xiao Hua pondered for a moment, nodded and started talking again. Sure enough, half a day passed very quickly. When Xiao Hua stopped talking, the four of them still felt that they were not satisfied. Without waiting for Sun Shu to speak, Xiao Hua said with a smile, In the future, if I establish a sect in the Dawn Rain continent, I will definitely hold a forum and give lectures. If you all want to listen, you can go at that time. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, gift, and thank you for all kinds of support. Chapter 5088. Alas. Zhen Yu sighed and said, It's only today that Junior understands what it means to gladly endure hardships. Previously, when Junior was cultivating, there were often things that Junior didn't understand. Sometimes, the master who taught me didn't explain it clearly, which made Junior feel that the path of cultivation was really difficult. But now, after listening to Taoist's lecture, I feel that the path of cultivation is really bright. You think too much. Xiao Hua responded and said to Zhen Qing, Martial Uncle, send out the summoning talisman. If we delay any longer, there might be other cultivators coming to the Ardent Fire Mountain. Zhen Qing glanced at Xiao Hua and knew that he had already discovered other cultivators. She quickly took out the summoning talisman and activated it with her magic power. The summoning talisman flew into the distant Crimson Mountain range and disappeared. Seeing the summoning talisman disappear, Zhen Qing was about to ask who the other cultivators were when a thought suddenly appeared in his mind. He couldn't help but bite his lips because he already understood that Xiao Hua's appearance wasn't just a coincidence. It might even be intentional. Xiao Hua wanted to test Chen Yi. Alas, this is fate. Zhen Qing sighed inwardly. Chen Yi has been scheming against others all her life, but I didn't expect that she would fall into someone else's scheme today. No, it should be said that this is someone else's test. If she was a little bit more sentimental, she wouldn't have ended up in this state. Zhen Qing, who was easily sentimental, fell into a state of longing again and didn't say anything. In the sky, other than the flying boat, there was only the whistling of the mountain wind. The mountain peak here was different from other places. Other than the mountain rocks being crimson red, the ground was also crimson red. On the ground there was a type of plant that was more than a foot tall. This plant stem was red, and between the branches and leaves, there was a spiral shape. Layer after layer of light red was stained on the surface like smoke. When the wind blew, the red leaves danced as if they were covered in flames. On the mountain peak there were also tall pine trees. These pine trees were also red. Although the red of the pine trees wasn't as bright as the red of the ground and was somewhat dark, the red was dense like blood. When the mountain wind whistled, the pine trees swayed and the crimson color danced. Amidst the crimson color, a fiery red flying shuttle that could only accommodate one person flew out from the mountain range. When the flying shuttle landed, an aura-refining disciple jumped down from the shuttle. Looking at everyone, he didn't dare to neglect and bowed respectfully. Junior is Huofeng from the Ardent Fire Mountain. Get up. Zhen Qing collected her thoughts and helped Huofeng up with a smile. We are disciples of the Imperial Thunder Sect. We rushed here after receiving the Fire Qilin's message. Bring us to him. Huofeng stood up and looked at the crowd. He smiled and said, Seniors, may I know which one of you is Ancestor Zhen? Oh, because my Imperial Thunder Sect has some important matters to attend to, Martial Ancestor Zhen can't come personally, so he sent us over. Sun Shu frowned and answered for Zhen Qing. Then, Huofeng was still unwilling to give up and asked, which Grandmaster is a nascent soul Grandmaster? No nascent soul Grandmaster from my Imperial Thunder Sect has come. Sun Shu was somewhat displeased and said, if the Fire Qilin doesn't welcome the disciples of the Imperial Lightning Sect, then we will return and report to Ancestor Zhen. Senior, please forgive me. Huofeng was sent by the Fire Qilin to welcome them, so he was naturally eloquent. He hurriedly replied, Junior didn't mean that. Junior doesn't know if my Grandmaster made it clear in the message he sent to Ancestor Zhen, but the current situation in the Ardent Fire Mountain is somewhat complicated. If you don't have the strength of a nascent soul Grandmaster, I'm afraid you won't be able to deal with it. Moreover, your life might be in danger, so Junior asked a few more questions. The meaning in Huofeng's words was very clear. If Xiaohua wasn't here, Zhen Qing might have turned around and left. But at this moment, Zhen Qing's expression was calm and she said with a smile, Huofeng, don't worry. Bring us to see the Fire Qilin. We definitely won't disappoint him. Huofeng naturally couldn't tell the strength of Xiaohua, Yuanya, Zhen Qing and the others, but after hearing Zhen Qing's assurance he was overjoyed. He brought Zhen Qing and the others and flew into the depths of the mountain. Senior Martial Brother? Sun Shu couldn't help but ask through voice transmission, are there any other cultivators from the other sects coming? Are there any other cultivators from the other sects? Sun Shu didn't know what to say when he saw the blazing hot air in front of him. Xiaohua glanced into the distance and revealed a strange expression. He said with a smile, I don't know many nascent soul cultivators, but I'm very familiar with this nascent soul cultivator. Who? Sun Shu was somewhat curious. After all, Xiaohua was only a Foundation Establishment cultivator before he went missing. Meng Country Changbai Sect, Daoist Jingru. Xiaohua said word by word. Daoist Jingru? Sun Shu was stunned and asked curiously, he's a cultivator from Meng Country. Why did he come to my country of Shi? There's no other way. Xiaohua said with a smile, it seems that there are many nascent soul cultivators who received the favor of the three elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain. After several hundred years, their descendants can still find nascent soul cultivators to help them with their tokens. It's just that if the three elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain were the same person, and now that they're divided into three sects, I don't know who this favor belongs to. Xiaohua's words were naturally sarcastic. Zhen Qing and Sun Shu might not know, but Xiaohua was clear about the eccentric temperament of the three nascent soul cultivators of the Ardent Fire Mountain. The nascent soul cultivators they offended definitely exceeded the number of nascent soul cultivators who received their favor. Yes, it's been more than 700 years since the Sword Dao War. Zhen Qing sighed and said, the Fire Qilin took the token and went to find Martial Ancestor General. No wonder Martial Ancestor didn't want to come. Moreover, the Fire Qilin didn't come personally and only sent Huofeng over. There's something wrong with that. Xiaohua was stunned. He thought that Zhenlei Palace really had some urgent matter, but now it seemed that it was just Zhen Qing's excuse. Senior Martial Brother? Sun Shu asked, how did you know Daoist Jingru? How could we know each other? Xiaohua smiled bitterly and said, this guy has enmity with me. Soon after, Xiaohua whispered about the grudge between him and Daoist Jingru. Hearing that Daoist Jingru, a nascent soul cultivator, actually chased after Xiaohua from Guihisi all the way to the Imperial Thunder Sect, Sun Shu and Zhen Qing's expressions changed. Sun Shu even said with righteous indignation, is this still a nascent soul cultivator? So shameless? Fortunately. Xiaohua smiled and said, I was lucky enough to escape back to the Imperial Thunder Sect. Since then, I haven't seen this guy again. Sun Shu shouted, Senior Martial Brother, just kill him. Zhen Qing immediately thought of Chen Yi and said with a bitter smile, Daoist really came back to the Dawn Rain continent to settle the karma. Yes, if I don't settle the karma, how can my Dao heart be clear? Xiaohua said while transforming, Martial Uncle, if there's anything, just tell Yuanya. Junior will see what Daoist Jingru is like now before making a decision. Seeing Xiaohua transforming into an unfamiliar cultivator, Zhen Qing smiled bitterly and said, "All right, I hope this senior Jianghu can pass the test." Taoist. Sun Qian, who had been silent all this time, suddenly asked, "Since you understand karma, are you preparing for ascension?" Oh. Xiaohua was surprised. He looked at Sun Qian and said, "You know about ascension?" Sun Qian's face was a bit red and she said with a smile, "Junior obtained a broken jade slip a long time ago, and there was an introduction about ascension inside. However, ascension is only a legend, so Junior has long forgotten about it." And? Xiaohua nodded and replied, "More or less." Xiaohua's words were really shocking. Previously, Sun Shu inferred with common sense that Xiaohua was a mid-nascent soul cultivator. Later, when she saw how powerful Yuanya was, Sun Shu racked her brains to guess Xiaohua's cultivation level. Now, when she heard that Xiaohua was about to ascend, her brain buzzed as if the whole world was about to collapse or darken. The immortal realm was almost ethereal to all the cultivators on the Dawn Rain continent, but to Sun Shu, it was closer to an ideal. She had never thought that she would be able to face a cultivator who was about to ascend. Moreover, this cultivator had traveled with her and gone through trials and hardships together. Seeing everyone's astonishment, Xiaohua said with a smile, "This is the path that all cultivators must take. As long as you all work hard, this day will definitely come." Yes, Junior understands. Facing such a supreme cultivator, Zhen Qing didn't dare to be negligent. She bowed and replied, "Understood." Another karma settled. When Xiaohua heard how Zhen Qing addressed him, he sighed in his heart. He understood that he had one less concern in this world. While everyone was talking, they arrived in front of another mountain. This mountain was one of the many mountain peaks. Cryptic fluctuations were emitted from it from time to time. Wherever the fluctuations passed, faint flames would appear in the void. When the wind blew, the flames would also appear. Everyone stood in front of the mountain peak as if they were facing a huge bundle of flames. "Senior, please wait a moment." Huafeng stopped and respectfully said, "Junior asks martial ancestor to come out and welcome us." "Well said." Zhen Qing replied with a smile. With an ascended cultivator overseeing things, she was even more confident. Huafeng sent out a communication talisman. Not long after, the fire Qilin flew over with a group of disciples from the ardent fire mountain. Some of these disciples were quite old, some were young, and some were in the foundation establishment realm. However, most of them were in the aura refining realm. When the fire Qilin saw that Xing Yunzi wasn't among the group of cultivators, he was obviously disappointed. However, this was within his expectations. When he saw Xiaohua, his face unconsciously became more spirited. He hurriedly bowed respectfully and said, "Junior Fire Qilin greets Senior. Senior, you seem a bit unfamiliar. How should I address you?" "This old man's name is Zhang Xiaohua." Xiaohua said with a smile. "Just call me Senior Zhang." Yes, Junior greets Senior Zhang." After the fire Qilin bowed, he greeted everyone. Xiaohua paid attention to the fire Qilin. At this time, the fire Qilin was already a late-stage gold core cultivator. Not only was his face old, but there was also a lot of fatigue between his eyebrows. However, the way he greeted people was very different from before. He was no longer straightforward and had added the necessary etiquette. Although there was a lot of hypocrisy in his etiquette, it could still be considered an improvement. Vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it and give it a tip. Thank you for all forms of support. Thank you to Alliance Leader Mei Xianjun, Alliance Leader Chuan Tong, Alliance Leader Daoist Xiao, Book of Flight, and other fellow Daoists. Chapter 5089. After greeting each other, the fire Qilin couldn't help but ask again, "Fellow Daoist Zhen, does Senior Xing Yunzi really have no time to come? Today's matter is really too important to I." Hearing this, Xiaohua laughed in his heart and thought to himself, after all, it's the fire Qilin. If it was someone else who knew that Xing Yunzi wasn't coming, why would they ask again? Moreover, he didn't go out to greet him and only sent a disciple. This is obviously disrespectful to the Imperial Thunder sect. Zhen Qing had no choice but to repeat the previous words. The disappointment on the fire Qilin's face deepened. He looked at Zhen Qing and then at Xiaohua and asked in a low voice, "Senior Zhang, what's your current strength?" "I'm at the early nascent soul stage," Xiaohua said proudly. "What? If you only want to wait for Xing Yunzi, then I'll go back first." Zhen Qing hurriedly mediated and said, "Fire Qilin, Senior Zhang is a good friend of my Grandmaster. Grandmaster Zhen can't come, so he specially invited Senior Zhang to come. Don't be rude." The Fire Qilin woke up and hurriedly said with an apologetic smile, "Senior, please don't blame me. Junior didn't mean that." Junior heard that the Fire Luan not only invited Changbai sect's Reverend Jianghu, but also invited a mysterious cultivator. That Reverend Jianghu is a senior in the middle or late nascent soul stage. Junior was afraid that Senior Zhang would be at a disadvantage. "Fire Qilin, why did you invite Xing Yunzi over?" Xiao Hua frowned and said, "I'm only here to represent Xing Yunzi. I'm not here to fight with my life on the line. You have to explain the matter clearly." The Fire Qilin was somewhat embarrassed and hurriedly replied, "Senior, there's no need to fight with my life on the line, but a fight is possible." Junior begs Senior. Junior's life is in Senior's hands. "I'm just an early nascent soul stage cultivator. How can I be Reverend Jingru's opponent?" Xiao Hua said, "You've put your life on my hands. Isn't it all for nothing?" "Oh, Senior, don't worry." The Fire Qilin said again, "Junior invited Senior Zhen and others. Damn it." Xiao Hua said somewhat angrily, "Fire Qilin, what's going on? What happened to your ardent fire mountain? Who else did you invite?" "Senior." The Fire Qilin hurriedly replied. But at that moment, whoosh! Another messaging talisman flew over from afar, passing through the many restrictive spells and landing in front of the Fire Qilin. The Fire Qilin received the messaging talisman and glanced at it. It was immediately overjoyed and cried out, "Senior Zhang, please wait a moment. This junior will go and welcome Adept Bluefeather. Everything will be explained once I return." After saying that, the Fire Qilin's figure streaked across the sky and rushed out of the Ardent Fire Mountain. Behind him, the group of Ardent Fire Mountain disciples were somewhat flustered. They did not know if they should follow the Fire Qilin to welcome Adept Bluefeather or stay here to accompany Xiao Hua and the others. Of course, this was only for a short moment before some older disciples of the Ardent Fire Mountain appeared. After a brief discussion, some of them brought their disciples and flew up to welcome Adept Bluefeather. Some of them stayed where they were, accompanying Xiao Hua and the others as they waited for Adept Bluefeather. "Hehe, Senior, please forgive me." The one who accompanied Xiao Hua was an early-stage gold core old man. He smiled and said to Xiao Hua, "Senior, don't look at my family's young master's lack of understanding. His temperament is the most straightforward and sincere. He is the most suitable candidate to be the sect master of the Ardent Fire Mountain. Only he can convince the masses and make the other two sects of the Ardent Fire Mountain follow him wholeheartedly." Xiao Hua did not comment. He also looked out of the Ardent Fire Mountain like everyone else. He seemed to have some thoughts in his heart. Adept Bluefeather is a nascent soul cultivator of the Meng Nation's immortal music sect. Adept Jingyu is also a nascent soul cultivator of the Meng Nation's Changbai sect. These two nascent soul cultivators of the Meng Nation were invited by two people of the Ardent Fire Mountain at the same time. Is this a coincidence? In fact, whether it was a coincidence or not didn't mean anything to Xiao Hua. In just half a cup of tea's time, Adept Bluefeather and his disciples had already arrived in front of the Ardent Fire Mountain accompanied by the Fire Qilin. Xiao Hua had met Adept Bluefeather in the Shenkong Pavilion of Haoming City. At that time, Adept Bluefeather was just a short and fat early-stage nascent soul cultivator. 600 years had left a lot of hardships on Adept Bluefeather's face. It even allowed Adept Bluefeather to step into the late-stage nascent soul stage. However, it did not change Adept Bluefeather's short and fat body. Xiao Hua recognized the high and mighty nascent soul grandmaster at a glance. Junior greets Adept Bluefeather. Although Adept Bluefeather was a cultivator of the Meng Nation, the disciples of the Ardent Fire Mountain and the disciples of the Imperial Thunder sect all bowed to greet him. While everyone bowed, only Xiao Hua and Yuanya stood upright. Adept Bluefeather naturally saw Xiao Hua and Yuanya. Xiao Hua was somewhat glad that he had suppressed his realm to the nascent soul stage. If he had been at the gold core stage, he might have had to salute Adept Bluefeather. Wouldn't he have reaped what he sowed? Thinking of this, Xiao Hua cupped his hands and said, "I Zhang Xiao Hua greets Adept Bluefeather." Zhang Xiao Hua. Adept Bluefeather frowned and asked curiously, how come this old man didn't know that there was a nascent soul cultivator called Zhang Xiaohua in the country of Xi? Fellow Taoist is not a cultivator of the country of Xi, so naturally you don't know about the matters of the country of Xi. Xiaohua retorted indifferently, could it be that every nascent soul cultivator in the country of Xi has to report to the country of Meng? Senior. The Fire Qilin hurriedly tried to smooth things over and said with a smile, Senior Bluefeather, this Senior Zhang is a good friend of Senior Xing Yunzi from the Imperial Thunder sect. He came to my ardent fire mountain because of Senior Gen's request. Senior, please don't misunderstand. How can this old man misunderstand? Adept Bluefeather sneered. This old man is only afraid that someone has mixed in with us and hindered you from taking charge of the ardent fire mountain. Take charge of the ardent fire mountain? Xiaohua frowned and said, Fire Qilin, this old man asked you before. This old man didn't know what happened to your ardent fire mountain, and you didn't explain clearly. How come there's someone taking charge of the ardent fire mountain now? The Fire Qilin smiled bitterly and said, Senior Zhang, no matter what, you are still a nascent soul cultivator of the country of Xi. How could you not know the current situation of my ardent fire mountain? Xiaohua nodded and said, This old man naturally knows the situation of the ardent fire mountain. Since the fall of the 3 elders of the ardent fire mountain hundreds of years ago, the ardent fire mountain has become a pile of loose sand. There hasn't been a qualified sect master to support the ardent fire mountain. Speaking up to here, Xiaohua suddenly realized, and said, This old man understands. This time you want to choose a suitable sect master, right? Facing Xiaohua's hindsight, the Fire Qilin was a little embarrassed. He smiled and said, Senior Zhang is right. That's why this junior invited Adept Bluefeather and Senior Gen to help this junior. So that I can take the position of sect master of the ardent fire mountain in one fell swoop. Xiaohua took a deep look at the Fire Qilin and said with a smile, So that's how it is. This old man received Xing Yunzi's message and hurried over, so I didn't think much about it. No wonder you said that you needed this old man to take action. But since this old man wants to take action, what benefits does this old man have? Seeing Xiaohua directly ask about the benefits in front of so many people, the Fire Qilin's expression became very awkward. He looked at Adept Bluefeather and opened his mouth wanting to say something, but he hesitated. Adept Bluefeather was displeased. He looked at Xiaohua and asked, Fellow Taoist Zhang, which sect are you from? Fortune Gate. Xiaohua replied indifferently. Fortune Gate? Adept Bluefeather was stunned. Then a sneer appeared on his face and he said coldly, So you were sent by Zhonghauren to tease this old man. When the Fire Qilin heard this, he was also stunned. He looked at Xiaohua strangely and whispered, Fortune Gate? Without waiting for Xiaohua to explain, Adept Bluefeather said, This old man doesn't care which sect you are from, but since you are a nascent soul master, you should have the awareness of a nascent soul master. You should understand the rules of a high-level cultivator. When you saw this old man just now, you didn't even know how to salute, and now you are asking about the benefits in front of others. Could it be that your family's elders didn't teach you? Seeing that Adept Bluefeather was getting angry and even dared to talk about his sect's elders, an early gold core old man who had accompanied the Fire Qilin to greet Adept Bluefeather hurriedly flew out from the crowd and bowed. Senior Bluefeather, please don't be anxious. Adept Bluefeather was even more displeased with being interrupted. He sneered, Who are you? How dare you interrupt this old man? The Fire Qilin hurriedly said, Senior, please know that this is the Hall Master of my Ardent Fire Mountain's Fire Spirit Hall, Hall Master Hua Pengfei. Senior, please don't be anxious. Listen to Junior's explanation. Hua Pengfei said with a smile, Although this Senior Zhang is a bit straightforward, his words are not excessive. After all, he followed Senior to the Ardent Fire Mountain from afar. From a moral point of view, he has already done his best. Supporting my Fire Qilin's martial uncle Hua to take charge of the Ardent Fire Mountain is not something that can be decided with just a few words. We invited seniors to come here to borrow seniors' strength. If my Ardent Fire Mountain did not pay any price, how could seniors help us? When we sent the message to seniors that day, juniors wanted to make things clear. However, Martial Uncle Qilin felt that seniors had not come yet, so it was too unscrupulous to talk about the price and benefits. Therefore he did not say anything. As a matter of fact, it caused a misunderstanding. Senior Xing Yunzi of the Imperial Thunder Sect did not come, and Senior Zhang also misunderstood that my Ardent Fire Mountain only spoke empty words. This is the fault of my Ardent Fire Mountain. Junior apologizes to seniors on behalf of Martial Uncle Qilin. Seeing that Hua Pengfei was apologizing, the Fire Qilin hurriedly said, This is my fault. How can I let Hall Master Hua apologize? Senior Zhang, Senior Bluefeather, Junior was not familiar with the affairs of the common people in his early years. These years I have changed a lot, but after all, let's not talk about it. This is Junior's fault. Seniors, please forgive me. Xiaohua was about to raise his hand to speak when he suddenly saw Adept Bluefeather's lips move. His heart stirred and he slightly urged his divine ability. Adept Bluefeather's voice transmitted to his ears. Pengfei, Fire Qilin still hasn't decided? This Zhang Xiaohua is a nascent soul cultivator from which sect in the state of Shi? Don't let him mess up our plans. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, collect a collection, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 5090. Senior, don't worry. Hua Pengfei bowed and said, this is not a matter of Fire Qilin's decision. Fire Hibiscus and Fire Luan have already offered that item as the price. How could he not comply? If Ardent Fire Mountain had not decided on this matter, how could this junior dare to let Fire Qilin send a communication talisman to Senior? As for this Zhang Xiaohua, this junior has never heard of her. However, when I sent the message to Imperial Thunder Sect's Senior Xing Yunzi, there was no mention of that item. Presumably, Senior Xing Yunzi did not know about it, so he sent this senior over. This shows that Imperial Thunder Sect does not attach importance to this matter. Senior Zhang, I'll have to trouble Senior to speak about it. After all, this junior has already told Senior that a senior from Imperial Thunder Sect will come. And this old man understands. Taoist Master Blue Feather agreed and said, this old man will see the situation first. Hee. Xiaohua understood and thought, so the matter of Ardent Fire Mountain is really complicated. This Taoist Master Blue Feather does not seem to have a relationship with the three elders of Ardent Fire Mountain, but is colluding with this hall master called Hua Pengfei. His goal is the item of Ardent Fire Mountain. However, Taoist Master Blue Feather is already a mid or late nascent soul cultivator. At this time, Ardent Fire Mountain does not even have a single nascent soul cultivator. If he wants that item, he can just come and take it. Why go through so much trouble? Xiaohua thought and hurriedly raised his hand to support Fire Qilin and the others. He said with a smile, this old man is ashamed of himself. This old man is not a profiteer. Because of the changes in the world's spiritual energy, this old man has seen my fellow Taoists fall under the thunder tribulation one after another. This old man is pregnant with a nascent soul and needs to cultivate peacefully. How can I act rashly? Therefore this old man wants to know. Senior? Fire Qilin stood up and bit his lips. He seemed to be forced to speak. Senior, rest assured, my Ardent Fire Mountain. Just as Fire Qilin said this, woo-woo, a whistling sound came from the distant mountain range. Everyone looked up and saw a fireball falling like a star. Fire Qilin saw the fireball and his expression changed slightly. He glanced at Hua Pengfei, who also had an inexplicable expression, and whispered, Lu Hua's message? Martial uncle, could it be? It seems that there is a change. Fire Qilin said. The fireball had already landed in front of Fire Qilin in a flash. The Fire Qilin opened its mouth and spat out a mouthful of scarlet red true yuan into the fireball. The fireball quickly shrank and turned into a fist-sized jade ball. When the Fire Qilin's divine sense entered the jade ball, a look of realization appeared on its face. It said, the Fire Hibiscus and the Fire Luan request to postpone the battle. They intend to change it to 10 days later. After saying this, the Fire Qilin seemed to have temporarily removed a heavy burden, and said to Taoist Master Blue Feather and Xiaohua with a smile, since that's the case, seniors, please move to the Fire Spirit Hall. Junior, wait. Before the Fire Qilin could finish speaking, Hua Pengfei spoke abruptly. Martial uncle, you must not agree to it. Seniors, there's no need to wait here. Head directly to Johua Peak. Oh. The Fire Qilin was puzzled and asked, why? The two seniors have come from afar and haven't rested yet. Isn't it good for them to delay the time? Martial uncles, can you tell me the reason for the delay? Hua Pengfei asked. The Fire Qilin shook its head. No. Then when is the date we agreed on? Hua Pengfei asked. Tomorrow, of course. The Fire Qilin smiled. Isn't this what we agreed on together? Martial uncle? Hua Pengfei smiled bitterly. Senior, you have to think about it. They wanted to set the time 5 days ago, but the reason we strongly opposed it and insisted on setting the time tomorrow was because we were worried that Senior Blue Feather wouldn't be able to arrive in time. Now that Senior Blue Feather and Senior Zhang have arrived, they want to postpone it instead. Senior, why do you think they are postponing it? The Fire Qilin was ignorant of worldly affairs, but that didn't mean it was stupid. On the contrary, it was extremely intelligent. When it heard this, it already understood and nodded. That's right, there's no need to say anything more. The reinforcements Hua Furong and Hua Luan asked for definitely didn't arrive in time, so they decided to postpone it. If we want to win, we definitely can't agree to postpone it. At this point, the Fire Qilin hesitated again and said, but, But when we asked to postpone it that day, Furong also helped us. Martial Uncle Qilin. Hua Pengfei persuaded. Senior, think about it again. If not for Martial Uncle Furong having difficulties and her reinforcements not arriving in time, would she have agreed to postpone it? Now there's no time to lose. Martial Uncle has sent a message to Lu Hua, saying that he doesn't agree to postpone it. Furthermore, we will now rush to Jianghu Peak. Senior Blue Feather and Senior Zhang will be waiting there. We'll see how they respond. The Fire Qilin was still hesitant. Following which, some disciples of Ardent Fire Mountain began to persuade it. After a few moments, the Fire Qilin sent a message to Xiao Hua and Taoist Blue Feather. Two seniors, this junior originally wanted to set up a banquet. No need to say more. Taoist Blue Feather was rather straightforward. He flicked his sleeve and said, "This old man doesn't lack a banquet from your Ardent Fire Mountain. Hurry to Jianghu Peak. This matter is over. This old man still has other matters to attend to." Yes, senior, please. The Fire Qilin respectfully said. This junior happens to be on the way. I'll explain the matter that I didn't explain to the two seniors. Xiao Hua naturally didn't mind. He flew to the other side of the Fire Qilin and listened to the Fire Qilin explain the matter. It wasn't particularly different from his guess. After the Ardent Fire Mountain was divided into 3 factions, they hadn't been able to select a suitable sect head. Although the Fire Qilin's cultivation was high, he wasn't familiar with common affairs. Many disciples of the Ardent Fire Mountain were unconvinced. Hua Furong and Huojio weren't strong either. Therefore, the 3 factions had been in a stalemate for close to 100 years. Afterwards, when they saw the Ardent Fire Mountain declining, everyone felt that if this continued, the Ardent Fire Mountain would be exterminated before the sect head appeared. Therefore, everyone thought of the final battle. Speaking of battle, the Fire Qilin was naturally the leader. Hua Furong and Hua Luan proposed that they couldn't rely on the disciples of the Ardent Fire Mountain to decide the sect head. After all, the Ardent Fire Mountain was also a Tao Cultivator sect in the Cultivation 3 nations. They could also invite disciples from other sects to participate. If the Fire Qilin had more tricks up his sleeves, he naturally wouldn't agree. However, the Fire Qilin only cared about his family and didn't think too much about it. Therefore he readily agreed. Of course, if they invited cultivators from outside the Ardent Fire Mountain to participate, Jindan cultivators definitely wouldn't do. At the very least, they would have to be early nascent soul cultivators. If they wanted early nascent soul cultivators to participate, just as Xiao Hua said, there would be a price. And the price for the entire Ardent Fire Mountain to pay for a nascent soul cultivator to participate was the most valuable treasure of the Ardent Fire Mountain, Jianghu Peak. As for what this most valuable treasure was, it seemed that only the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain who had fallen knew about it. No one else knew. This most valuable treasure was sealed within the fire pond under Jianghu Peak. If they wanted to open this seal, they would have to rely on the 3 tokens that the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain usually hung around their necks. These 3 tokens weren't lost during the sword battle. They were brought back to the Ardent Fire Mountain by the disciples of the Ardent Fire Mountain and obtained by the leaders of the 3 sections. Now they were in the hands of the Fire Qilin, Fire Hibiscus and Fire Luan respectively. To open the seal, not only did it require the 3 tokens, it also required the blood essence of 3 direct bloodlines and a secret technique. It was said that the secret technique was even more strange. It was different every hour. Only by activating the token and dripping a drop of blood essence on the seal would the caster be able to know what the secret technique was. And if the caster didn't know the secret technique or failed to open the seal of the fire pond would produce an extremely powerful backlash that would kill the caster. This was perhaps the reason why Taoist Master Blue Feather didn't dare to act rashly. The current plan of the Ardent Fire Mountain was to use this most valuable treasure to ask a nascent soul grandmaster to help and choose a sect master of the Ardent Fire Mountain. Moreover, the nascent soul grandmaster would have to swear a blood oath to help the sect master govern the Ardent Fire Mountain for 100 years. After listening to the Fire Qilin's introduction, Xiao Hua smiled wryly and said, "Fire Qilin, it's not that I don't agree, but you don't even know what the treasure under the Dove Fire Mountain is, yet you want this old man to help? Moreover, I have to swear a blood oath to help you govern the Ardent Fire Mountain for 100 years. If other sects besiege the Ardent Fire Mountain, does my Fortune Gate have to help you out?" The Fire Qilin smiled apologetically. "Senior's words are reasonable. However, since it's something my 3 great-grandfathers sealed, it can't be wrong. It should be something that seniors can use. Perhaps it would be of some help when one's cultivation reaches the Severed God realm. As for helping this junior, I hope senior can forgive me. Although my ardent fire mountain has declined, if the three sects work together, 100 years is enough for my ardent fire mountain to recover. Therefore, if senior obtains the treasure, I hope senior can protect my ardent fire mountain for 100 years. Alright. If your ardent fire mountain thinks this treasure is worth it, then this old man will reluctantly agree. Xiao Hua nodded thoughtfully, but he soon realized something and frowned. But does your ardent fire mountain have two supreme treasures? How will this old man and Taoist Blue Feather divide them? Fellow Taoist Jiang. Taoist Blue Feather sneered and said, the ardent fire mountain may have one supreme treasure or two, or even three supreme treasures. However, before we discuss how to divide them, you and I must first consider helping the Fire Qilin seize the sect master position. Secondly, we must consider who will put in more effort and who will put in less effort in the process of competing for the position. Hee hee. Xiao Hua laughed. This old man thinks that with two nascent soul masters like us here, the ardent fire mountain sect master position will be easily obtained. Is it possible that the fire hibiscus and the fire luan will invite 4 more nascent soul masters? Fellow Taoist Jiang, don't be careless. Taoist Blue Feather frowned. You have the opportunity to advance to the nascent soul realm, and other cultivators naturally have the same opportunity. Although the spiritual chi of heaven and earth has changed, and many cultivators have fallen under the sudden nascent soul thunder tribulation, many disciples of aristocratic families have awakened their bloodline, and they have the opportunity to attack the nascent soul realm. The current strength of the aristocratic families in my main country has already emerged, and they are close to the true cultivation sects. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank all forms of support. Chapter 5091. As Xiao Hua flew, he seemed to be pondering. After a long time, he nodded and said, all right. My cultivation is not as good as fellow Blue Feathers, so I can't use more strength than fellow Blue Feather. This time, I will listen to fellow Blue Feather's arrangement and don't let I suffer a loss. Haha. Taoist Blue Feather laughed and clapped. We came to Ardent Fire Mountain to repay the old affection of the 3 elders of Ardent Fire Mountain. Since fellow Zhang said so, how can this old man let you suffer a loss? There were many disciples of the Ardent Fire Mountain that followed the Fire Qilin to the Jianghu Peak. Other than Hua Pengfei, the majority of the disciples had come. They followed behind the Fire Qilin and were all whispering to each other. Their faces were filled with excitement as if they had already seen the Fire Qilin obtain the position of sect master. As for the Fire Qilin, after talking to Xiao Hua and Taoist Blue Feather, he was somewhat depressed. He led everyone through the layers of restrictions and arrived in front of a small mountain peak. Unsurprisingly, this mountain was also crimson in color. However, it was a little short. On the opposite side of the mountain, there were 2 other mountains that were similarly short, forming a tripod. The 3 mountains sandwiched a fire pond. This fire pond was calm, like a fiery red agate that was 100 miles in size. Senior, please wait a moment. Although they could already see the fire pond, the Fire Qilin still cautiously stopped in midair and said, this Jianghu Peak still has one last restriction. Wait for this junior to open it. Soon after, the Fire Qilin threw out a yellow talisman that contained blood essence. A series of muffled rumbling sounds came from the bottom of the mountain peak. It was as if a millstone was rolling up the mountain peak. Layers of scarlet flames poured down from the top of the mountain until the flames covered the entire mountain peak. Oh! A rarely seen heat wave rushed out from the mountain peak. The nearby space slightly swayed as if it was somewhat distorted. After the heat wave, scattered fluctuations rushed out like raindrops. Wherever the fluctuations went, sparks flew everywhere. After a full meal, the fluctuations gradually thinned out and disappeared. A powerful aura mixed with heat seeped out from the fire pond and rushed into the sky. Even someone as strong as Xiao Hua sucked in a breath of cold air upon seeing this aura. He secretly cried out, this is the aura of a fire attribute soul. Could it be that a soul was sealed under the fire pond? Alright. Thinking of this, Xiao Hua suddenly looked at Reverend Blue Feather and came to a realization. That year in the Xiankong Pavilion of Haoming City, the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain once said that they had an incomplete soul of an 8th-stage spirit beast. This Reverend Blue Feather wanted to make a deal with the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain and use the soul of the 8th-stage spirit beast to repair their spirit weapons. However, the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain wanted an innate jellyfish, but this Reverend Blue Feather didn't have one. Could it be that this is the soul of the 8th-stage spirit beast? If that's the case, Then I can explain why Adept Blue Feather insisted on interfering in the matters of Ardent Fire Mountain. Senior? Just as Xiaohua was pondering, the Fire Qilin spoke again. Inside the formation is a forbidden area of my blazing fire mountain, and it's called Zhurong Hall. It said that this place is an ancient ruin. Oh, I remember that Senior Blue Feather had also been to the Shenkong Pavilion in Haoming City. This place is similar to the Shenkong Pavilion, but it's a little damaged. Adept Blue Feather raised his eyebrows and asked curiously, I remember that the Shenkong Pavilion is an imitation of the Void Palace, and there are mysteries of the Great Tao inside. Could it be that your Zhurong Hall also has such mysteries? The Fire Qilin smiled apologetically and said, I'm not sure about this. After all, my cultivation is shallow and I can't see anything. However, the interior of this hall is a little strange, so it's better for seniors to be careful. According to my 3 great-grandfathers, they don't dare to walk around carelessly inside. And I understand. Adept Blue Feather casually replied, and then looked at the restriction that had just been opened. His expression was a little uncertain because his divine sense couldn't penetrate the restriction, so he couldn't see what was inside. However, after hearing the Fire Qilin's words, the 3 mountain peaks and the fire pond he saw just now were most likely illusions. Sure enough, after the Fire Qilin passed through the restriction, they also saw 3 mountain peaks, but the scenery was completely different. On top of the mountain peaks were rugged rocks of strange shapes, and each rock was larger than an ordinary hill. There were some strange runes between the rocks, and they looked not only old but also broken. The runes flickered with a dark red light, as if the energy waves that had rushed out from them had come from these runes. However, this wasn't the worst. As soon as everyone entered the restriction, their gazes were immediately attracted by a majestic hall on top of the mountain. This hall was simple and unadorned, and it looked extremely large as if it covered the sky and the mountain peaks. What welcomed them was a vermilion door. The door was extremely large and the pillars beside it were also extremely tall. Although the door was half closed, the space it revealed was enough for a dozen people to enter at the same time. On top of the door was a similarly large plaque, but this plaque was already broken and the words couldn't be seen clearly. Only the flame-like patterns on the edges of the plaque could be seen flickering. As everyone flew closer to the door, a powerful and intimidating aura was emitted from the door, as if a huge monster was opening its mouth and inviting its guests to enter. Senior? The Fire Qilin landed in front of the door and smiled apologetically. This is one of the 3 doors of Zhurong Hall. We can't fly in and we can only walk in from the ground. Reverend Blue Feather nodded. Guests should follow the host's wishes. You lead the way and this old man will follow behind. The Fire Qilin entered Zhurong Hall first, and Reverend Blue Feather and Xiaohua followed behind. After entering the hall, what entered everyone's eyes was another simple hall, and the furnishings and decorations inside were much larger than usual. The Fire Qilin didn't stay in the hall for long, and it flew straight into the hall. After passing through a few halls, the fire aura gradually grew stronger, and there were traces of fire in the hall. Moreover, there were already some fire shadows on the left side of the hall, and there were also layers of light and shadow in front of the hall, as if there was a real fire burning. In the end, everyone walked into a damaged hall. Instead of calling this hall a hall, it was more like a platform. This was because the hall had already collapsed. Above the roof of the hall was a greenish-white sky. The floor of the hall was filled with huge cracks, and the abnormally large benefactors were lying on the ground. What was special was that at the front of the hall, where the hall was torn apart, all the cracks were rolling downwards. It looked as if a huge rock had fallen from the sky and caused the hall to collapse again. Xiaohua and the others walked to the other side of the hall, where the hole had been torn apart. Looking down, they saw a bottomless abyss with smoke lingering in the abyss. Layers of flames rushed out from the bottom of the abyss without restraint, rushing into the sky and into the dome of heaven. The abyss was about 10 miles wide and there were some faint red lights flashing in it. Waves of obscure fluctuations rushed out from the red lights, and obviously, there was a powerful restriction formation at the bottom. The flames couldn't block everyone's sight. They looked at the bottom of the abyss, then raised their eyes to the opposite side. Through the flames they could clearly see that there were also 2 collapsed halls, but the floor of the hall was slightly smaller than the floor under everyone's feet. At this moment, there weren't any figures in these 2 halls, only broken fences and dilapidated walls. The Fire Qilin stopped, pointed at the abyss and said, "Senior, below this abyss is the fire pond, and above the fire pond is a layer of restriction formation. According to my 3 great-grandfathers, this restriction formation is one with Zhurong Palace, but due to some accident, Zhu Rong Palace was broken, and a flaw appeared in the restriction formation, which allowed them to use the power of the restriction formation to set up their magic formation. Of course, this magic formation was also created by comprehending the restriction formation of Zhu Rong Palace, and is not an ordinary magic formation. Reverend Blue Feather slightly nodded and casually responded, but didn't comment. Next to him, Na had already begun to transmit his voice to Huo Pengfei. Senior, this is the seal that this junior was talking about earlier. This junior has tried to break it several times. Every time I tried, an extremely powerful counterattack force would be generated from the seal. It is far beyond what this junior can withstand. Therefore, this junior does not dare to act rashly. What's the secret technique that the Fire Qilin mentioned? Reverend Blue Feather's lips slightly moved as he asked, why can't this old man see anything special about it? Junior doesn't know about this. Huo Pengfei looked around, then lowered his head and transmitted his voice. Junior has only heard about it from the 3 great-grandfathers of Blazing Fire Mountain when they were still alive. Junior hasn't been here before, and only after receiving Senior's message did I sneak in. This so-called secret technique, Junior doesn't know about it at all. You can be considered the direct descendant of the 3 great-grandfathers of Blazing Fire Mountain, so how come you don't even know about this secret? Reverend Blue Feather's words were somewhat directed at Huo Pengfei's heart. Sure enough, Huo Pengfei fiercely replied, Senior is right. The Fire Qilin's bloodline isn't as pure as this junior's, but he has received the love of the 3 great-grandfathers of Blazing Fire Mountain. Therefore his position is far above this junior's. Senior, look at his indecisive appearance, how can he be a good sect master? If this junior was in his position, it would be impossible for the situation of Blazing Fire Mountain to become like this. Don't worry. Reverend Blue Feather laughed. This time this old man will first help the Fire Qilin become the sect master. Then I'll suggest you to become the vice sect master. After a period of time, you will be able to ascend to the position of sect master. Many thanks, Senior. Huo Pengfei found it inconvenient to bow, but his tone was still respectful. No matter if it was Huo Pengfei or Reverend Blue Feather, they would never have dreamed that Xiao Hua had heard every single word of their conversation. Poor Fire Qilin, how could he have known that he had been plotted against by a disciple of his sect and a senior of his sect? He looked at the opposite side, then turned around and respectfully said to Xiao Hua and Reverend Blue Feather, 2 seniors, this junior has already sent Lu Hua's message to Huo Furong and Huo Luan, informing them that the battle will continue as usual. The time of the battle will be tomorrow. 2 seniors, please take a rest here and wait for Huo Furong and Huo Luan to enter Zhurong Palace tomorrow morning. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward. Chapter 5092. N. Taoist Blue Feather nodded and looked around before walking to a corner of the main hall and sitting down cross-legged. The Golden Core disciple and several Foundation Establishment disciples he brought hurriedly sat down around him. Seeing Taoist Blue Feather leave, Xiao Hua also found a place and sat down. Zhen Qing and the others naturally stood beside him. Zhen Qing wanted to ask something, but seeing that Xiao Hua seemed to be meditating, she shut her mouth and closed her eyes to carefully comprehend what she had just learned. After the meal, Xiao Hua suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the disciples of Ardent Fire Mountain in the distance and said, Fire Qilin, come here. Yes, Senior. Fire Qilin, like everyone else, was also meditating with his eyes closed. Hearing this, he hurriedly stood up and walked over. Taoist Blue Feather naturally heard Xiao Hua's voice. He slightly opened his eyes and looked at him before closing them again. A trace of disdain appeared on his face. After all, Xiao Hua was just an early nascent soul cultivator. In his opinion, Xiao Hua was just an ornament. Now that Xiao Hua took the initiative to look for Fire Qilin, it seemed that Xiao Hua was overestimating himself. Senior, what's the matter? Fire Qilin respectfully saluted. Xiao Hua smiled and said, no need to be polite. Sit down. In front of Senior, this junior doesn't dare to be casual. Fire Qilin was puzzled and didn't dare to sit down. Sit down. This old man has a few questions to ask you. Xiao Hua looked at this Golden Core cultivator who was very different from before and said with some emotion in his heart. Fire Qilin looked at Xiao Hua with a somewhat familiar expression, but after carefully thinking about it, he couldn't recognize it. However, he didn't say anything and carefully sat down. Xiao Hua said, this old man was acquainted with the 3 elders of Ardent Fire Mountain. That year. I also saw you. Fire Qilin was startled and almost jumped up from the ground. He looked at Xiao Hua in surprise and asked, Senior, this junior doesn't have any impression of you? This old man changed his appearance after becoming pregnant. Naturally you can't recognize me. Xiao Hua replied with a smile. Fire Qilin suddenly understood and hurriedly said with a smile, indeed, this junior didn't think of this. It seems that this junior must congratulate senior for successfully becoming pregnant. Actually, Xiao Hua nodded his head and indicated for the Fire Qilin to sit down. He said, this old man's first question is, this old man is very clear about your aptitude. After so many years you should have been pregnant a long time ago, but this old man doesn't see any signs of you being pregnant at all. The Fire Qilin's face turned a little red when he heard Xiao Hua's question. He smiled bitterly and said, Senior, you may not know this, but ever since the Sword Dao War, my Blazing Fire Mountain's 3 great-grandfathers fell in Sky Patrol City, and my Blazing Fire Mountain began to split. Since then, this junior has not been able to cultivate in peace. Moreover, without the support of great-grandfather, everything that I need for my cultivation has started to be lacking. If it weren't for my good aptitude, I'm afraid I wouldn't even be able to step into the middle stage of the Gold Core realm. At this point, the Fire Qilin mocked himself. Actually, if I'm not even at the middle stage of the Gold Core realm, I wouldn't have so many troubles now. Hee. Xiao Hua smiled and said, this is this old man's second question. Are you really willing to be the sect master? The Fire Qilin opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but just like before, he swallowed his words. He closed his eyes and thought for a moment and then said, since Senior has seen this junior before, you must have seen this junior before. This junior is actually self-aware. I know that I only know how to cultivate and don't know anything about the affairs of the sect. Moreover, in the past few hundred years, this junior has never thought that he would come to snatch the position of sect master. But, with the passage of time, the Blazing Fire Mountain today is no longer the Blazing Fire Mountain in this junior's memory, nor is it the Blazing Fire Mountain where you, a junior, can cultivate in peace. There is a group of cultivators fighting for fame and profit here. In order to get everything they want, they don't hesitate to tear apart their family ties. In that case, why don't you leave the Blazing Fire Mountain? The Fire Qilin's words were not beyond Xiao Hua's expectations. Xiao Hua asked with interest. The Fire Qilin did not hesitate this time and immediately replied, how does Senior know that this junior has never left? Since you have left, why are you still here? Xiao Hua asked back. The Fire Qilin smiled bitterly and said, if this junior is not in the Blazing Fire Mountain, where can I escape to? Besides the Blazing Fire Mountain, is there any place in this world that doesn't have people fighting for fame and profit? If this junior leaves the Blazing Fire Mountain, where can I cultivate? Xiao Hua understood the Fire Qilin's pain and nodded, so you came back? Yes. After all, this is the place where this junior grew up. After all, what can this junior do for the disciples of the Blazing Fire Mountain? The Fire Qilin replied, this junior doesn't want to see the Blazing Fire Mountain decline like this. If there is a suitable sect master, can you leave with peace of mind? Xiao Hua suddenly asked. The Fire Qilin was puzzled. What does Senior mean? Xiao Hua smiled and said, nothing, this is this old man's third question. You can do whatever you want. If you don't want to answer, then forget it. If there is a suitable sect master, this junior can naturally leave. The Fire Qilin replied, unfortunately, Hua Hibiscus and Hua Wan are barely satisfactory. I'm afraid they can't convince the disciples of the Blazing Fire Mountain. Other than their strength being slightly weaker, they are more suitable to be the sect master than you in all other aspects. Xiao Hua said ruthlessly. The Fire Qilin was somewhat embarrassed and nodded. What Senior said is true. This junior also admits this point. Actually, this junior might as well say it more deeply. If not for Hua Pengfei and the others encouraging this junior really doesn't want to fight for the position of sect master. This junior only wants to stay in the Blazing Fire Mountain and do some things within his power for the Blazing Fire Mountain. AI, this is what it means when the tree wants to be still but the wind won't stop. Xiao Hua sighed and finally said, I hope that tomorrow your Blazing Fire Mountain will have a good ending and a good beginning. Thank you, Senior, for your concern. The Fire Qilin stood up and said respectfully before slowly retreating. Hua Pengfei was naturally concerned. He transmitted his voice to ask what happened. The Fire Qilin only shook his head and didn't say anything. He then closed his eyes and seemed to be meditating. One day and one night quickly passed. The nebula gradually became thinner and the first rays of dawn were about to arrive. At the broken gap of the Zhu Rong Palace, a faint light from the sky dispelled the darkness of the night. A wisp of light illuminated along the layers of broken walls and gradually fell into the dark red abyss. At the broken palace opposite Xiaohua and the others, a wisp of light flashed and some vague figures appeared. The fire Qilin had long been paying attention to the opposite side. Seeing the figures appear, he hurriedly jumped up from the ground and said somewhat impatiently, "Seniors, Huoluan has arrived. We should go over." Hearing this, Xiaohua moved and hurriedly stood up. However, when Xiaohua walked to the side of the fire Qilin, the distant Reverend Blue Feather didn't even open her eyes. The fire Qilin opened his mouth and wanted to wake Reverend Blue Feather up. Xiaohua smiled and said, "Don't worry, the other side only sent Huoluan. It won't be too late to wake Reverend Blue Feather up after Hua Hibiscus comes out." "Yes, Junior will listen to Senior's instructions." The fire Qilin hurriedly nodded and raised his eyes to look at the location of the other palace. That place was still dim and no cultivators appeared. However, after just a few breaths, 2 cultivators flew above the abyss from the palace where Huoluan was. The one in front was really the Huoluan that Xiaohua saw outside the ink-cloud black forest. However, at this time, Huoluan was no longer young and had turned into a white-haired old woman. Her face was covered in wrinkles and her appearance was even more unsightly. If the fire Qilin hadn't said that this old woman was Huoluan, Xiaohua was afraid that she would be Hua Hibiscus. After Huoluan there was another mid and late nascent soul master. Xiaohua was very familiar with this nascent soul cultivator. It was Reverend Jianghu that Xiaohua saw with his divine sense yesterday. Reverend Jingru's gaze didn't linger on Xiaohua and the fire Qilin, but directly fell on Reverend Blue Feather. Her face clearly carried a kind of surprise, as if she didn't expect that Reverend Blue Feather would appear here. Seeing Huoluan flying over, the fire Qilin couldn't wait any longer. He was about to fly over when Reverend Blue Feather opened her eyes and looked at the abyss. She said, "Fellow Taoist Jingru is in a good mood. Why did you come to Ardent Fire Mountain?" "Ha ha ha." Reverend Jingru heard and couldn't help but laugh. "Since fellow Taoist Blue Feather can come, why can't this old man come? This old man and Huo Pai Kong are good friends. Before the 3 elders of Ardent Fire Mountain were born, this old man often came to Ardent Fire Mountain to nag, but this old man has never heard the 3 elders of Ardent Fire Mountain mention fellow Taoist Blue Feather." Reverend Blue Feather got up and flew to the fire Qilin's side. She waved her hand and signaled the fire Qilin to fly with her to the abyss. She said, "That's strange. This old man and Huo Pai Shan are good friends. Although I rarely come to Shi, if the 3 elders of Ardent Fire Mountain were to come to Meng, this old man will definitely welcome them. But this old man has never heard Huo Pai Shan mention fellow Taoist Jingru." While speaking, the fire Qilin and Xiaohua followed Reverend Blue Feather to the center of the abyss. They saw that in the depths of the abyss, where even sunlight couldn't penetrate, strands of dark red flame threads flew out from the abyss like smoke. Layers upon layers of fine fluctuations also surged out chaotically. These fluctuations and flame threads landed on the golden light protecting everyone's body, immediately creating sparks. "At which fellow Taoist is this?" Reverend Jingru acted as if she didn't hear Reverend Blue Feather's question. She looked at Xiaohua and asked curiously, "How come this old man doesn't have any impression of this person?" Xiaohua was just about to speak when Reverend Blue Feather smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist Jingru, you don't need to care about who is beside this old man. You are one of the seniors invited by the Fire Luan, and this old man is one of the seniors invited by the Fire Qilin. Now you only have the qualifications to ask this old man, but you don't have the qualifications to ask other fellow Taoists. If you want to know the details of this fellow Taoist, I'll have to trouble you to invite another nascent soul master who has the qualifications to speak with this fellow Taoist." Shwa. While they were talking, the last hall also emitted a brilliant light. Hua Hibiscus, who looked similar to the Fire Luan, walked in with a dozen other people. Seeing that the Fire Qilin and Fire Luan had already flown into the abyss, Hua Hibiscus calmly gave a few orders and also accompanied another early nascent soul stage cultivator to fly over. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, gift it, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 5093. Xiaohua frowned as he looked at this tall cultivator. This cultivator's muscles were bulging and his body was huge. He looked like a body cultivator and not a Dao cultivator grandmaster. Moreover, this cultivator's appearance was extremely unfamiliar. Xiaohua had never seen him before. Hee. Seeing this cultivator fly out, Reverend Blue Feather and Reverend Jing Si both laughed and said, "Blazing Inferno Mountain is really interesting." They actually invited a Kunlun sect cultivator. Although the cultivator looked rough, he was very gentle. Before he could get close, he bowed to the two nascent soul cultivators and said, Junior Gu Yunzi greets the two seniors. Gu Yunzi of the Kunlun sect? Xiao Hua thought for a while, but he didn't have any impression of this name. Reverend Blue Feather and Reverend Jianghu didn't dare to be negligent. They hurriedly raised their hands and said, There's no need to be so polite. Quickly get up. You are now a nascent soul grandmaster. There's no need to be so courteous. Thank you, seniors. Gu Yunzi stood up and looked at Xiao Hua. He smiled and said, Fellow Taoist, you look very unfamiliar. May I know which sect you are from? Fortune Gate. Xiao Hua smiled faintly and answered, Small sects and small sects can't compare to fellow Taoist. Fortune Gate? Gu Yunzi and Reverend Jingru looked at each other, then at Reverend Blue Feather. They were rather puzzled by Xiao Hua's answer. However, Taoist Blue Feather was quite satisfied with Xiao Hua's answer and said with a smile, Just now this old man just told fellow Taoist Jing Su that if you all want to know this fellow Taoist's identity, you still have to pass through this old man first. Otherwise, we'll have to wait for another qualified fellow Taoist to appear. Excuse me for a moment, seniors. The Fire Luan's face carried a trace of anger. She bowed towards Adept Blue Feather and the others and said, Junior would like to speak with the Fire Qilin first. Do as you wish. Adept Blue Feather had a card up his sleeve. He laughed and said, This is Ardent Fire Mountain, and you are the true masters. After obtaining Adept Blue Feather's permission, the Fire Luan looked at the Fire Qilin and asked, Fire Qilin, that day when we were discussing, you said to delay it by 5 days. We didn't even think about it before agreeing. Why is it that today when we want to delay it by 10 days you won't agree? That's right. Even if 10 days isn't enough, 5 days should be enough, right? Hua Farong also complained. As her elder brother, why can't you be more lenient on these few days? This? The Fire Qilin was somewhat hesitant, as if he had taken advantage of his two younger sisters by not agreeing to postpone. When she saw this, Hua Luan struck while the iron was hot and said, How about this? It must be very tiring for the 4 seniors to come to my blazing fire mountain from afar. Why don't we ask them to rest in Zhurong Hall for 5 days? Ahem. Without waiting for Hua Luan to finish speaking, Adept Blue Feather coughed twice and said, Hua Luan, that's where you're wrong. Fire Luan did not dare to contradict Taoist Master Blue Feather. It hurriedly smiled and said, What wrong has this junior done? Senior, please enlighten me. You didn't do anything wrong. Adept Blue Feather said indifferently. The ones at fault are us. Fear appeared on Hua Luan's face. She lowered her head and said, I don't dare. We were wrong to place our previous friendship with the 3 elders of Blazing Fire Mountain on your heads. We were wrong to believe in your integrity. Adept Blue Feather continued, I don't know what you Blazing Fire Mountain heirs discussed before. I believe that Adept Jingru and Gu Yunzi don't know either. We only know that we are going to fight here today to help Blazing Fire Mountain find a suitable sect master. Now that the time has come, why do you want to postpone it? Do you think that we nascent soul masters are free and unfettered every day, casually finding a place to meditate? Yes, this junior knows her mistake. Hua Luan said and looked sideways at Adept Jingru as if asking for help. Fellow Taoist Blue Feather. Adept Jingru had obviously discussed with Hua Luan. He said with a smile, Blazing Fire Mountain said that the fight will begin today, but they didn't set a specific time. It's still early now, so why don't we wait until the afternoon? Is that so? Adept Blue Feather turned to look at the Fire Qilin. Fire Qilin thought for a moment but was not sure. He hesitated and said, It seems possible. That's good. Adept Blue Feather heard and nodded without hesitation. Since that's the case, let's take a rest. The fight will begin in the afternoon. With that, Adept Blue Feather turned and flew back. Since Adept Blue Feather left, Adept Jingru also turned and flew back. Only Gu Yunzi looked deeply at Xiao Hua and called Hua Hibiscus to fly back. Big brother, you've changed. Before Hua Luan left, she also looked deeply at Fire Qilin and threw out such a sentence. Fire Qilin looked at Hua Luan's back and smiled bitterly. I was forced to change by you. With that, Fire Qilin said to Xiao Hua, Senior, please return. We'll wait for half a day. Whatever. Xiao Hua didn't care about a day and half a day. He followed Fire Qilin back and sat down cross-legged, preparing to close his eyes and meditate. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows and looked at the abyss. A sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Fire Qilin didn't meditate. He stood in front of the palace and looked at the other side of the abyss. Wan and Hua Hibiscus didn't stay in front of the palace for long. They said a few words to Adept Jianghu and Gu Yunzi and hurriedly left. Obviously they were waiting for the other experts. Unfortunately, half a day passed quickly. Even when Fire Qilin deliberately delayed until dusk, no nascent soul cultivators appeared in the two palaces. Wan and Hua Hibiscus were helpless. They ordered their disciples to wait outside while they followed Adept Jianghu and Gu Yunzi to the abyss. Fire Qilin had already waited there with Adept Bluefeather and Xiao Hua. Hua Hibiscus. Adept Bluefeather smiled. Who else did you invite? Since they haven't come yet, I'm afraid they won't come again, right? This? Hua Hibiscus hesitated for a moment before replying. They're a bit far from my ardent fire mountain. I've already sent a disciple to send a message. If they don't come now, I'm afraid something went wrong midway. Seeing that Hua Hibiscus wasn't willing to reveal who it was, Adept Bluefeather didn't ask any more. She looked at Wan and said, Wan, what about you? Wan was rather straightforward. She said, I invited a senior from Tongmu City. They should have arrived long ago, but when Xiao Hua heard this he couldn't help but smile. He said, if you can wait for Chen Yi and Daoist I Ching, I think, you don't have to wait any longer. Wan was stunned. She looked at Xiao Hua and asked, Senior, what do you mean? Xiao Hua shrugged. He looked at Fire Qilin and said, I didn't expect this old man to eliminate an enemy for you before even reaching Ardent Fire Mountain. It can't be? Wan said in disbelief. Although I invited Senior Qing Liuzi, if he couldn't come because he had something to do, he would have sent Fairy Chen. Fairy Chen and Daoist I Ching are already two nascent soul masters. Who are you? Adept Jingru's eyes flashed with a sharp light. She looked at Xiao Hua and asked. Xiao Hua smiled and patted his head. Jingru, don't you recognize me? As Xiao Hua released his pressure, Xiao Hua returned to his original appearance. You're Xiao Hua? Gu Yunzi and Reverend Bluefeather might not remember Xiao Hua, but Reverend Jingxi had a deep impression of Xiao Hua, the thief who stole his natal magic weapon. Seeing that Xiao Hua had returned to his original appearance, he had long recognized him. He cursed under his breath and was about to move. However, before he could move, Xiao Hua's pressure had already risen to the late stage of nascent soul realm, not inferior to Adept Jingru's. Not only did it force Fire Qilin and the other two to tremble, it also forced Adept Jingru to not dare to act rashly. Xiao Hua was only in Qi refinement realm, yet he was able to escape from Adept Jingru. His current realm was not inferior to Adept Jingru's. How could Adept Jingru dare to act without worry? So, Xiao Hua? Adept Jingru was not the only one who was shocked. Adept Bluefeather and Gu Yunzi were also shocked. Fire Qilin, Hua Hibiscus and Wan were the most shocked. You're Xiao Hua? Fire Qilin asked and almost flew over to pull Xiao Hua to confirm. Hua Hibiscus looked at Xiao Hua's appearance that hadn't changed for hundreds of years and his cultivation that she didn't dare to look at. Her expression flickered and her gaze became blurred, as if she was thinking of the matters of the past. Wan's gaze was filled with jealousy, resentment and dissatisfaction. Wan even said, Senior Jingru, the water element ice essence that Junior gave Senior was taken away by him. Adept Xiao, you're so calculating. Adept Bluefeather thought for a moment and said with emotion, You haven't even reached Blazing Fire Mountain, yet you've already eliminated a formidable enemy for Fire Qilin. If this old man didn't do anything, how could this old man deserve Fire Qilin's respect? Senior, are you the terrifying phoenix in the sword battle, nascent soul realm Wu Ming? Gu Yunzi was puzzled. He bowed and asked, Junior has long heard of Senior's great name. Unfortunately, I can only meet you today. It's truly Junior's honor. Xiao Hua's cultivation was only in the middle or late nascent soul realm. It was really similar to Wu Ming's cultivation realm more than 600 years ago. Gu Yunzi didn't doubt him. However, Adept Jingru and Adept Bluefeather were extremely puzzled. They had seen Xiao Hua before, especially Adept Jingru. When he was chasing Xiao Hua was really in the Foundation Establishment realm, with the strength of a Gold Core realm and the ability of a nascent soul realm to escape. They hadn't seen each other for hundreds of years, but Xiao Hua was actually in the same realm as them. Then what about his strength? Adept Jingru's eyes revealed a thoughtful expression. His true essence that had been accumulating began to recede like a tide. Xiao Hua didn't know Gu Yunzi and said with a smile, Fellow Taoist, you're too polite. This Xiao just did something that should be done for my Tao cultivation. I didn't expect that it would cause so much trouble. This is really beyond my expectations. No. Gu Yunzi hurriedly said, Senior, you don't know. The battle between my Dao Cultivation and the Sword Cultivator back then was far more complicated than Senior thought. Behind the Sword Cultivator, there were one or several swordsmen who were far more scheming than my Dao Cultivation. They arranged the troops and planned the battle for them. Moreover, the Sword Cultivator attached much more importance to that battle than my Dao Cultivation. After the battle, several of my disciples who were scheming for the Dao Cultivation did a reverse analysis, trying to find some clues from it. However, during the deduction, we were all shocked and couldn't help sweating. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to the starting point to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 5094. Xiao Hua naturally knew that LV Ruochang of the Black Phoenix Sword Sect was the commander of the Sword Dao battle. Behind LV Ruochang was Jiu Xia from the Green Hill Sect. How could the human Dao cultivators be a match for the Nine-Tailed Fox's scheme? However, he still asked with a smile, "What did you find out, Taoist Gu Yun? How could you and the other disciples who planned the battle be afraid?" Sigh. Gu Yunzi sighed and said, "We discovered during the deduction that we had already stepped into the Sword Dao cultivators' scheme since the beginning of the Sword Dao battle. Although it seemed that the swordsmen's arrangements were disorderly, similar to the great swordsmanship battles recorded in the past, in reality, these arrangements, coupled with time, formed a series of seamless and flawless arrangements. Not only did they lure our disciples below the nascent soul stage into the Sword Tomb and kill them all, but they also lured our nascent soul stage masters into the Sky Patrol City and caught them all in one fell swoop. Of course, it was because of your appearance that not only did you disrupt the arrangement in the early stages of the Sword Dao battle, but you also destroyed the Sword Tomb at the last critical moment. This saved hundreds of thousands of disciples below the nascent soul stage." At this point, Gu Yunzi took a deep breath and said, "It's a pity that you disappeared after the Battle of the Sword Tomb. If you also participated in the Battle of the Sky Patrol City, our Dao cultivators would never have lost the Sky Patrol City." "How is that possible?" Perfected Jianghu said with some reluctance. Even if Xiao Hua was an early-stage nascent soul stage cultivator, he couldn't have achieved anything in the Battle of the Sky Patrol City. Don't forget, even the 3 elders of the Fiery Fire Mountain died in the Sky Patrol City. That mysterious weapon cultivator is really too powerful. "Yes," Xiao Hua said with a smile. "Taoist Gu Yunzi, you think too highly of me. If I went, I would also die in the Sky Patrol City." No. Gu Yunzi shook his head and said, "I definitely didn't deduce wrongly." Speaking of this, Gu Yunzi hesitated for a moment, then said firmly, "Let me tell you something a little secret. The reason why I was chosen as one of the think tanks in the last Taoist Sword War is because I have a similar skill of dispatching people. More importantly, I have been practicing the deduction skill of our Kunlun sect since I was young. I have some talent in this field and have made some small achievements. And when I used the divination technique, I was shocked to discover that my Dao cultivation had a chance of winning in the Battle of the Sword Dao, and the divination for this chance of winning was, on Senior Nameless. It's on Senior Zhao's body." Tisk. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, "Not to mention that several hundred years have passed." If fellow Taoist were to mention it now, this Xiao would not believe it. Even if you had mentioned it that day, this Xiao would not have been able to return to the Sword Dao battle. Don't forget that I was expelled from the thunder-controlling sect. I'm only an independent cultivator, and I have no obligation to participate in the battle of the Sword Dao. Sigh. Gu Yunzi sighed for the 3rd time. He smiled bitterly and said, "This junior is extremely regretful about the Imperial Thunder Sect's decision. They can only be said to have destroyed their own backbone. This junior even feels that this might be another trap set up by the sword cultivators." By the way, hearing this, Xiao Hua was also puzzled. Although he had heard about the matter of the 3 elders of the Blazing Fire Mountain being killed by the sword cultivators, he was not clear about the details. At this time, the person in front of him was one of the people who had set up the trap for the Sword Dao battle back then, so he must be clear about many details. Therefore, he thought for a moment and said, "Fellow Taoist Gu Yunzi, can you tell this Xiao in detail how the Heavenly Patrol City was taken down by the sword cultivators and how the 3 elders of the Blazing Fire Mountain fell?" "Of course." Gu Yunzi smiled and said, "Although this junior did not participate in the 2nd stage of the Sword Dao battle," cough cough. Just as Gu Yunzi said this, Taoist Blue Feather coughed twice and reminded them, "Fellow Taoists, today we are here to decide the sect master of the Blazing Fire Mountain, not to reminisce about the past. Moreover, Don't you think that talking about the fall of the three elders of the Blazing Fire Mountain will make the disciples of the Blazing Fire Mountain sad? Ah, that's true. Gu Yunzi hurriedly smiled and said, this junior knows his mistake. Senior Xiao, there are many details about the Sky Patrol City. If you tell us one by one, we don't have to do our business today. In this junior's opinion, we should first help the disciples of the Blazing Fire Mountain decide the important matters in their hearts, then this junior will explain it to senior in detail. How about it? Xiao Hua nodded and said, since that's the case, let's wait until the matter of the Blazing Fire Mountain is settled before we talk about it. Hua Ferong first heard that Qin Yi and Taoist Yi Qin, whom she had painstakingly invited from Tongmu City, were killed by Xiao Hua before they could reach the Blazing Fire Mountain. Then when she saw Gu Yunzi, whom she had invited, being so respectful to Xiao Hua, her heart turned cold. She knew that there was no hope for her today. After Gu Yunzi finished speaking, she hurriedly flew to Xiao Hua, knelt down and said, Senior Xiao. Unfortunately, before she could say anything, all her words were stuck in her throat. Her tears also fell with a shwa-shwa sound. Her originally ugly face became even more unbearable. Ai. Xiao Hua sighed. He helped Hua Ferong up and said, there's no need to mention anything at this time. It won't be too late to talk about it after today. Gu Yunzi saw Hua Ferong kneel down and was quite puzzled. However, after listening to Xiao Hua's words, he understood that Hua Ferong and Xiao Hua were also old acquaintances. Therefore he smiled and said, Hua Ferong, you can rest assured. Since this old man has come, I will definitely promise. Not to mention Taoist Xiao, whom this old man respects, even if it's my Kunlun sect's martial brothers, this old man will do his best to fight for the position of sect master for you. Damn it. Huoluan heard this and cursed in her heart. She looked at Taoist Jianghu and hesitated. However, she still transmitted, Senior, this junior has just sent a message to Hua Ferong. I want to discuss with her about joining forces, but, however, she ignored you and instead knelt down in front of Xiao Hua. Taoist Jianghu sneered, this old man will immediately send a message to Gu Yunzi. Since he said that he will do his best to fight for Hua Ferong, then he and this old man will join forces to resist Xiao Hua and Taoist Blue Feather. Many thanks, Senior. Huoluan was overjoyed and said, this is exactly what this junior was thinking. Today everything will depend on Senior. Rest assured. Taoist Jianghu said faintly, this old man and Xiao Hua have some grudges. This time I will definitely help you. Moreover, since this old man has promised you, I will definitely promise. You can open the restriction of the fire pond. Okay. Huoluan was even happier when she heard that Taoist Jianghu and Xiao Hua had some grudges. She agreed and turned her head to look at Hua Ferong. Of course, Huoluan was still looking at Taoist Jianghu from the corner of her eyes. Sure enough, Taoist Jingru's lips moved slightly. Huoluan felt relieved and said to Hua Ferong, Big Sister Ferong, now that things have come to this, what do you think we should do? Of the seniors we invited, one died before achieving success, and the other disappeared for a long time. Why don't we discuss with Big Brother Qilin again and ask him to be magnanimous this time? If it was someone else, perhaps Hua Ferong would be as stubborn as Huoluan and would struggle a few more times. However, after seeing Xiao Hua, Hua Ferong seemed to recall the situation in Haoming City that year. She recalled the situation when she and Fire Qilin joined hands to protect Xiao Hua and Xue Xue. The familial affection that was forced to hide in her heart sprouted very easily. She looked at Fire Qilin, who wasn't particularly happy, and shook her head, saying, Forget it, let's do it this way. But Huoluan still pretended to hesitate, then gritted her teeth and said, Okay. Since that's the case, this little sister will throw caution to the wind. We can't blame others for our bad luck. Fire Qilin, let's join hands to open the seal of the fire pond. Are we really going to open it? Now that things had come to a head, Fire Qilin was somewhat disappointed and frustrated. He asked in a low voice, This is my Blazing Inferno Mountain's most valuable treasure. What? Hearing Fire Qilin's words, Huoluan sneered, Brother Qilin, you're not willing to part with it now? If you're not willing to part with it, why did you fight so fiercely with this little sister on that day? If it weren't for you, this most valuable treasure, how could it have fallen into the hands of other nascent soul seniors? Alas, in the end, it's my Blazing Inferno Mountain's disciples who are disappointing. Now that all the seniors have come, what's the point of regretting? Hua Ferong took a deep look at Xiao Hua and said to Fire Qilin, We only hope that the most valuable treasure of my Blazing Inferno Mountain can fall into the hands of a suitable senior. After saying that, Hua Ferong opened her mouth, and a broken jade pendant flew out from her mouth. The jade pendant was fiery red in color and looked sparkling and translucent. Inside there were strands of fire that were as complicated as veins. Seeing that Huo Farong was about to make a move, Huo Luan and Fire Qilin didn't hesitate and took out the jade pendants that they controlled. As the three of them pointed their fingers, 3 pieces of jade pendants flew to the center. Along with a brilliant light, they combined into a complete jade pendant. The jade pendant flashed with a faint red light in midair and produced a faint fluctuation. The fluctuation was faintly discernible and fell in all directions. Under everyone's feet, waves of tide-like sounds could be heard, as if the ceiling formation had sensed the jade pendant. Looking at the light of the jade pendant, Fire Qilin, Huo Farong and Huo Luan's eyes became serious. The 3 of them glanced at each other and their eyes flickered. They turned their heads to look at the 3 places where the Zhurong Palace had already been turned into ruins. No one knew what the 3 of them saw, but after half a cup of tea's time, the 3 of them turned their heads back almost at the same time and looked at the jade pendant again. They seemed to be recalling something and also seemed to be revising the secret art. After another half a cup of tea's time, Fire Qilin was the first to speak. "I can already activate the secret art." Huo Farong and Huo Luan didn't answer. Instead they stared at the jade pendant. After another half a cup of tea's time, Huo Farong retracted her gaze and looked at Fire Qilin saying, "I can too." After another half a cup of tea's time, Huo Luan finally said, "I can too." P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support it, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a gift, and... Chapter 5095. "Since we're all ready, let's do it," said the Fire Qilin in a melancholy tone. "The earlier we do it, the earlier we can finish it, so that we won't have to worry about it later." "Good." Huo Farong nodded, but the Fire Luan was a bit hesitant. She turned around and looked at the Zhurong Palace, seeming to be unwilling to give up. Seeing this, the Fire Qilin asked, "Fire Luan, who else did you invite? Since they're not coming, what's the point of me telling them?" The Fire Luan didn't tell the truth and only responded blandly. The Fire Qilin didn't care and responded casually. Next, a fiery light surged around his body, and his hands began to move incantations. As the spell was sent into the jade began to vibrate, and a small flame emerged from the surface of the jade. That flame flickered, and every time it flickered, a thunder-like sound would be generated in the air, and the tide-like sound under everyone's feet would become a bit louder. Immediately after that, Huo Farong and the Fire Luan began to move their hands as well. Their moves were obviously different from the Fire Qilin's, and the brightness and size of the flame were different as well. However, when the flame flickered, the thunder-like sound in the air and the tide-like sound in the flame also became a bit louder. When the jade had already become a sphere of flame, the Fire Qilin opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of spirit blood, then confidently changed the spell and sent streams of spirit blood into the flame. After a short while, a real Fire Qilin's blood-red shadow flashed in the spirit blood. Huo Farong and the Fire Luan were both weaker than the Fire Qilin, and their bloodlines weren't pure enough either. Therefore, the speed at which they were casting the spell began to slow down, and their hands seemed to be holding heavy objects. When the blurry blood-red shadow slowly emerged in the spirit blood, the 3 of them glanced at each other, then raised their hands and pointed at the blood-red shadow while yelling, "Expel!" 3 blood-red shadows flew out from the spirit blood, slowly falling towards the flame that was transformed from the jade. Boom! A thunderous boom was generated when the spirit blood touched the flame. Next, the flame suddenly expanded, and transformed into a tens of zhang's large fire cauldron. This fire cauldron had 3 legs and was shaped like a square. On each side of the cauldron, all kinds of prehistorical scenes were shown. Streams of strong prehistorical power flowed in all directions like water, and fell into the surrounding Zhurong Palace. A strange look appeared in Xiaohua's eyes as he pondered inwardly. This ardent fire mountain's inheritance has some origins. No wonder the 3 elders of the ardent fire mountain could establish their own sect here. No wonder even Reverend Blue Feather and Reverend Jianghu coveted the supreme treasure of ardent fire mountain. I wonder what kind of treasure it is? As soon as the fire cauldron appeared, the legs of the cauldron trembled. In the time it took to drink a cup of tea, a fire pillar as thick as a child's arm fell into the abyss. Boom, boom, boom. 3 loud sounds were heard. The originally pitch-black abyss was ablaze with flames, and the fire pond was revealed in the flames. And at the place where the 3 pillars of fire landed, 3 huge whirlpools gradually formed. At the same time, a powerful aura gushed out of the whirlpool uncontrollably, covering the entire abyss. The Fire Luan, Fire Hibiscus and Fire Qilin could no longer resist this aura. They all retreated back into the Zhurong Palace with pale faces. Of course at this time the Zhurong Palace was already damaged. Although there were still some restrictions that emitted faint fluctuations, they were not enough to resist this aura. Sun Shu, Zhen Qing, Sun Qian, Huo Pengfei, and the other cultivators all retreated again and again, falling behind the broken walls. The aura mixed with the flames rushed out, rushing towards Xiaohua and the others. The four nascent soul cultivators simultaneously emitted a faint golden light that blocked this aura. Buzz buzz buzz. A few breaths after the Fire Qilin and the others retreated into the Zhurong Palace, the entire fire cauldron let out a loud rumble and fell into the fire pond in the abyss. Every time the fire cauldron fell 10 feet, the entire abyss would violently shake once, and the thunder in the void would also rumble once. The nearby Zhurong Palace would also shake once. Moreover, as the fire cauldron approached the fire pond, the rhythm of the rumbling also began to accelerate. In the end, the fire cauldron smashed into the fire pond like an earthquake. In an instant, the fire cauldron seemed to melt and split into 3 parts, falling into the 3 whirlpools. At the same time, the 3 whirlpools swallowed each other and turned into one vortex. Then, with a rumble, the flames above the fire pond suddenly sank, and like a volcanic eruption, it rushed into the abyss and attacked Xiaohua and the others. Swish swish. Like a flood rushing against the current, the golden light around Xiaohua and the others flickered, but their bodies were as majestic as rocks. When the flames rushed into the sky along the hole in the Zhurong Palace and condensed into a red cloud high up in the sky like the sunset, Xiaohua and the others' gazes all fell on the fire pond. Not to mention Taoist Jianghu, even Xiaohua could not help but feel surprised. At the bottom of the abyss was the fire pond that Xiaohua was thinking about. However, in the fire pond, countless waves of fire were constantly rolling, and a Yazi beast soul essence that was several hundred feet in size was struggling fiercely in these waves of fire. An unyielding, angry and unwilling aura was born from this soul essence, pushing the waves of fire in the fire pond to an extremely high level. Even Xiaohua's complexion changed a little from that aura. Not to mention the Fire Qilin and the other gold core practitioners, all of them had pale faces, and their bodies were somewhat limp as they struggled to stand there. Looking at this Yazi beast soul essence again, it was not complete, as if it was missing 30%. Even though it was incomplete, there were still hundreds of fire chains tightly binding it. These fire chains were as thick as a fist, and there were many strange runes engraved on them. When the fire chains fell on the Yazi beast soul essence, wisps of green smoke were immediately produced. As the green smoke grew, the runes on the fire chains would enter the soul essence, and the Yazi beast soul essence would violently tremble, as if it was in extreme pain. However, the Yazi beast soul essence's roar could not be heard, and Xiaohua and the others could not hear it. Even though it was in such pain, the Yazi beast soul essence was still struggling unyieldingly. The halos of the fire chains were produced one after another, and countless chaotic fluctuations flowed in the fire pond. Haha, it really is the Yazi beast soul essence. At this time, Taoist Blue Feather's laughter could be heard. This old man knew that the incomplete soul essence of Huatsang Mountain could not be obtained from thin air. It turns out that it was torn out from the complete Yazi beast soul essence. Damn it. When Xiaohua heard this, he suddenly understood. He was also present at the auction in Haoming City. Taoist Blue Feather wanted an 8th grade soul essence to repair a spirit artifact, and Ardent Fire Mountain happened to have an incomplete 8th grade spirit beast soul essence. Because Ardent Fire Mountain wanted the water essence Ice Pith, and Taoist Blue Feather did not have it, the two sides did not come to an agreement on the spot. Presumably, Taoist Blue Feather later found the water essence Ice Pith, and thus obtained the incomplete spirit beast soul essence from Huatsang Mountain. Of course, the incomplete spirit beast soul essence was obtained from the Yazi beast soul essence in the fire pond. Taoist Blue Feather concluded that there was another part of the soul essence in the fire pond, and thus, he schemed against Ardent Fire Mountain. Xiaohua did not care that Taoist Blue Feather schemed against Ardent Fire Mountain, but when he saw the Yazi beast soul essence, Xiaohua easily thought of the little white dragon. Therefore, Xiaohua did not want this unyielding and struggling Yazi beast soul essence to fall into a desperate situation and be refined into a spirit artifact's artifact soul. Therefore, Xiaohua moved and flew towards the abyss of the fire pond. Although Xiaohua moved, he was still a step too late. Just as Taoist Blue Feather was laughing, Gu Yunzi had already opened his mouth and spat out a fire bead to protect his body. He was the first to rush towards the fire pond. Gu Yunzi indeed did not let Huo Farong down. He wanted to use all his strength to obtain this soul essence. Daoist Jianghu was not slow either. He opened his mouth, and another pill furnace flashed with flames and flew out, landing at Daoist Jianghu's feet. The pill furnace flashed with flames and protected Daoist Jianghu. Daoist Jianghu's eyes were filled with resentment as he looked at Xiaohua. He urged his body to rush towards the fire pond after Gu Yunzi. On the contrary, Daoist Blue Feather, because he was too pleased with himself, actually fell behind Xiaohua. When he slapped the top of his head, a clear light carrying a lantern-like spirit artifact surged out. Xiaohua had already flown more than 10 zhang away. However, Daoist Blue Feather's spirit artifact was indeed extraordinary. As soon as the lantern appeared, a blazing aura comparable to the fire pond surged out. This aura was similar to the aura of the Yazi, but it was also a bit sharper. What was special was that the flame on the lantern gave birth to an illusionary image that rippled in all directions like waves. Within the illusionary image, thousands upon thousands of restraining forces came pressing down like layers of mountains. In an instant the entire space was filled up. Oh! Xiaohua was originally below Daoist Blue Feather. When the suppressive power descended, it enveloped Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua slightly raised his head to look at Daoist Blue Feather. Haha! Daoist Blue Feather laughed loudly and said, "Daoist Xiao, please don't misunderstand." And Xiaohua replied with a smile. However, just as his smile appeared, Daoist Blue Feather's face instantly changed and he shouted, "Kill!" As the word "kill" came out of his mouth, the spirit artifact in Daoist Blue Feather's hand immediately solidified. Dozens of phantoms appeared out of thin air and fell towards Xiaohua. The suppressive power that originally enveloped Xiaohua suddenly became several times stronger. The space around Xiaohua was like a mountain rock that bound Xiaohua. At the same time, Daoist Calm Deliberation, who was below Xiaohua, raised his head with a sinister smile. He raised his hand and patted his head. Boom! A light sound rang out and a 2-foot-long nascent soul rushed out, surrounded by flames. That nascent soul did not have time to stand still in midair. He raised his hand and waved. A small sword that was only a few inches long transformed into a stream of light and soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, it pierced Xiaohua's back. Although this small sword was small, its sword intent was like lightning. Wherever the small sword passed, layers of cracks appeared in the void. A thumb-sized vortex had already appeared where Xiaohua's back was imprisoned by the spirit artifact. If nothing unexpected happened, within a few breaths of time Xiaohua, who was being attacked by 2 nascent soul masters, would be pierced through from the back by this small sword. Sigh. A light sigh sounded like the weeping of a ghost. It carried endless helplessness and endless desolation. It was like a disappointment towards the human heart and dissatisfaction towards human nature. This light sigh fell into the hearts of Daoist Calm Deliberation and Daoist Blue Feather. Both of them were inexplicably frightened at the same time. Following this light sigh, Xiaohua's figure, who was originally enveloped by the spirit artifact's true essence, suddenly faded like an ink painting and disappeared in the blink of an eye. IPS. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support it. Cast a monthly vote, cast a recommendation vote, collect a collection, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 5096. This. Daoist Blue Feather was shocked and hurriedly looked at the fire qilin in front of Zhurong Hall because the voice was drifting towards that direction. Impossible! Daoist Master Blue Feather roared in his heart. Xiaohua's figure appeared like a ghost in front of the fire qilin. Xiaohua's hand pointed at Yuanya, who was at the Gold Core realm, and he said, "Go, settle this karma for Master." "Yes." Yuanya replied and his aura surged. With a crackling sound, the aura of the Yazi soul essence shattered inch by inch under Yuanya's dragon-like aura. Yuanya raised his hand and the demon spear appeared. He transformed into a demon god and rushed into the fiery abyss. Damn it! Although Daoist Blue Feather couldn't feel Yuanya's strength for the time being and wasn't clear about Xiaohua's strength, how could a cultivator who could easily escape from his spirit weapon be easy to deal with? Moreover, Yuanya actually broke through the space sealed by the spirit weapon with a snap of his fingers and rushed straight towards him with the devil spear in his hand. How could he not know Yuanya's strength? Daoist Blue Feather didn't think too much and roared loudly, "Fellow Daoist Jingru, let's kill this guy first." Well said. Daoist Jingru's nascent soul urged the spirit sword to fly out. She was also slightly stunned and raised her sharp voice to reply. Raising the spirit sword, she pounced towards Yuanya like a small snake. Looking at the 2 Grandmaster-level experts attacking Yuanya together, Xiaohua slightly shook his head. Taoist Blue Feather and Taoist Jianghu had already started to discuss through voice transmission after hearing that Xiao Hua killed Chen Yi. One had a feud with Xiao Hua and the other felt that Xiao Hua might not be able to obtain the Ardent Fire Mountain's treasure as she wished. Therefore, the two nascent souls from Meng Kingdom hit it off and planned to kill Xiao Hua first before making any plans. Unfortunately, what they didn't know was that every word they said had fallen into Xiao Hua's ears. Xiao Hua was just beating them at their own game to see if the two of them would really attack. While Xiao Hua was shaking his head, Xiao Hua suddenly knitted his eyebrows, raised his eyes and looked at the broken roof of Zhu Rong Palace. In that area, a fiery red cloud had covered the clear sky. At this time, a fishnet-like sword light suddenly appeared above the clouds. The sword light passed through the flames and turned into two unparalleled huge swords, making a clang-clang sound and pierced towards the abyss fire pond. Sword Cultivator? Second-grade sword transformation. Fire Luan actually invited a sword cultivator? Xiao Hua looked at Fire Luan opposite him. Sure enough, when Hua Luan heard the sword cry, her face was filled with ecstasy. Needless to say, this sword cultivator was a helper that Hua Luan had invited. Damn it. Seeing this, the fire Qilin beside Xiao Hua cursed in a low voice. Fire Luan? She actually asked the sword cultivator for help. The fire Qilin would not have been so angry if the fire Luan had invited any sect from the three kingdoms. However, the fire Luan had invited a sword cultivator from the Huan kingdom, the sword cultivator who had killed the three elders of the blazing fire mountain in front of Sky Patrol City. This was unacceptable. Roar. Seeing the great sword chopping down, how could Adept Blue Feather dare to attack Yuanya again? He let out an angry roar. Like a spirit artifact, his figure turned into a ray of light that met the giant sword. As for Yuanya, a cold smile appeared on his face. He casually raised his bone spear and stabbed it towards the giant sword. Ka. With a loud sound, the bone spear pierced through the void and pierced the giant sword. With the sound of the sword ringing, the giant sword shattered and a yellow-faced sword cultivator appeared from the fragments of sword light. The sword cultivator's face was filled with shock as he looked at Yuanya in disbelief. His left arm, which had not yet withdrawn from the sword shape, was already covering his abdomen. A glowing blood was slowly flowing out from there. At the same time, another loud boom rang out. The other great sword that was thrusting towards Taoist Blue Feather was also sent flying by the spirit artifact. As the sword light scattered, a skinny sword cultivator was revealed in a sorry state. The two sword cultivators did not expect that they would be defeated in a single blow the moment they appeared. They looked at Taoist Blue Feather again. Although he had repelled the sword cultivator who had launched a sneak attack, the spirit artifact under his control flickered extremely. A layer of deathly white color appeared on his face. Roar. When the spirit artifact was damaged, Yazi's soul essence in the depths of the fire pond immediately sensed it. The soul essence roared and set off another wave of fire. As the wave of fire soared into the sky, the rapidly descending Guyunzi had no choice but to dodge to the side and temporarily avoid the sharp edge. As for Yuanya, his figure merely paused for a moment. After pondering for a moment, he thrust his spear at the injured sword cultivator. Yuanya was not as benevolent as Xiao Hua. If the sword cultivator dared to launch a sneak attack on him, he would definitely take the sword cultivator's life. King. When the two sword cultivators saw that Yuanya's momentum was unparalleled, they were shocked and hurriedly opened their mouths to let out a sharp cry. Yuanya was somewhat puzzled, but after a few breaths he suddenly raised his head and saw that under the cloud of fire, a golden light had struck down from the sky. It was even faster than lightning. Moreover, this golden light was extremely arrogant. Not only did it attack Yuanya, it also covered the nascent souls of Taoist Blue Feather and Taoist Jianghu. Only Guyunzi flew low and was not affected. Seeing the golden light, Yuanya was somewhat stunned. However, he knew that this golden light was powerful and did not dare to be negligent. He raised his spear and blocked the golden light. Shwa. With a soft sound, the golden light attacking Yuanya was restrained in front of the bone spear. Even someone as strong as Yuanya's arm trembled slightly. He hurriedly looked at his bone spear. Fortunately, although there was a faint mark on the bone spear, the demonic aura around the mark had already formed like silk and began to slowly repair it. Yuanya was in such a state, but Taoist Blue Feather and Taoist Jianghu were not so relaxed. Taoist Blue Feather had just blocked the attack of the giant sword. Before the backlash of the spirit weapon could dissipate from his body, the murderous golden light had already landed. Pooh! With a soft sound, the golden light split all the phantoms of the spirit weapon into a neat crack. Under the crack, the golden light struck the top of Taoist Bluefeather's head. Although Taoist Bluefeather tried his best to dodge, the golden light was too sharp. It easily tore through Taoist Bluefeather's protective golden light and easily chopped off the left half of his arm. Taoist Bluefeather was in great pain and hurriedly urged his broken body to dodge to the side of the abyss. Just as Taoist Bluefeather urged his body to move, another sharp scream came from below him. Taoist Bluefeather did not need to look to know that this was Taoist Jianghu's nascent soul being split apart by the golden light. Sure enough, where the golden light landed, Taoist Jianghu's flying sword was neatly split in half. Her nascent soul was also split in half without any resistance. Taoist Soaring Dragon. Without waiting for the golden light to disappear, Taoist Bluefeather roared in a low voice, Why are you here?" At the place where the golden light dissipated, Taoist Soaring Dragon's bony figure slowly revealed himself. Taoist Bluefeather looked at Taoist Soaring Dragon with fear in his eyes. Back then, under Sky Patrol City, even Taoist Yuan Qing of the Tai Ching sect, who had stepped into the late nascent soul stage, was defeated by Taoist Soaring Dragon. How could the current Taoist Bluefeather be Taoist Soaring Dragon's opponent? This was Xiaohua's first time seeing Taoist Soaring Dragon. He looked at Taoist Soaring Dragon's withered yellow face with interest and the ruthlessness flashing in his scarlet yellow eyes. He did not make a move and seemed to be thinking about something. However, this was not the end of it. Just as Taoist Soaring Dragon's figure appeared, a green light from all directions shrouded him like a clear cloud. Wherever the green light passed, whether it was the fire of the fire pond or the Yazi's aura, they were all annihilated. Luo, Fallen Flower Fairy. Taoist Bluefeather's face was ashen as he roared. Facing the fierce weapon cultivator who could kill the three elders of the blazing fire mountain 700 years ago, Taoist Bluefeather could already see the shadow of death. When the green light appeared, there was no mercy at all. Ka. A clear sound like the sound of nature was emitted from the green light. A green cloud flashing with golden light fell from the green light. This golden light was several times bigger than the one in Sky Patrol City. It completely enveloped the entire abyss and brazenly fell. The golden light was even more powerful than Taoist Soaring Dragon's. As soon as it appeared, it immediately fell on top of Taoist Bluefeather's head. Taoist Bluefeather only had time to activate his spirit weapon to resist, but the golden light had already penetrated his spirit weapon. Shwa. Wherever the golden light passed, the fire of the spirit weapon was extinguished like a candle in the wind. An extremely dim Yazi soul essence broke free from the golden light. It turned into a stream of light and fell into the void, instantly falling back into the fire pond. After the soul essence, the golden light brushed past Taoist Bluefeather's body. It was even more powerful than when it killed the three elders of the blazing fire mountain. Taoist Bluefeather's nascent soul did not even escape. It was annihilated along with his body. Where do you think you're going? In the distance, Taoist Soaring Dragon saw the remnant soul of the spirit weapon fall into the fire pond and coldly said. He turned into a golden light and rushed towards the Yazi soul essence under the fire chain. Naturally, Yuanya was also under Luo Hua Fairy's golden light. He did not dare to be negligent. He waved his bone spear and the soaring devil flame turned into a devil head to block the golden light. Although the golden light brushed deeply into the devil flame, it was gradually refined by the devil flame. After all, Yuanya, who was close to the 8th grade of elemental energy, was not someone Luo Hua Fairy could compare with. Although Luo Hua Fairy's light was blocked by Yuanya's devil spear, the golden light in other places still fell. Taoist Jianghu, who had lost his nascent soul, was even more vulnerable. He only activated his body to escape for 1,000 feet before the golden light caught up with him. When his body was annihilated, he did not even have time to scream. Gu Yunzi, who was originally hiding from the fierce aura of the Yazi soul essence, had already sensed that something was wrong when the sword cultivator appeared. He activated his body and quietly went to the side of Zhurong Palace. When Taoist Soaring Dragon killed Taoist Jianghu's nascent soul, Luo Hua Fairy killed Taoist Jianghu and Taoist Bluefeather, Gu Yunzi could not help but cry out, "Save me!" Alas! Xiaohua sighed again. Weapon cultivators, in the end they are not righteous. At this time you don't even have any humanity left. What kind of cultivators are you? Along with this sigh, a big golden hand stretched out from the top of the abyss and covered Gu Yunzi. Luo Hua Fairy's golden light could kill the three elders of the blazing fire mountain, but when it landed on this big hand, it could only cut off 30% of the golden light of the big hand. It could not destroy the big hand. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward. And Chapter 5097. Yuanya, go and capture immortal Ting Jiao, this Luo Hua fairy. Leave her to your 8th martial uncle. Xiao Hua instructed and placed Gu Yunzi beside him. Ha ha ha. As Xiao Hua took out the Kunlun mirror, the celestial being laughed and flew out of the light beam. He looked at the green light and shouted, "She is my prey. Sooner or later she will fly to me. You have been free and unfettered in the mortal world for so many years. You must be tired. Come back." As he spoke, the celestial being waved his hand and the heavenly dipper rushed up to the sky. The heavenly dipper released a green light that was exactly the same as the green light in all directions. It covered the green light around Fairy Luo Hua, and her figure was revealed. Fairy Luo Hua was even more shocked than immortal Ting Jiao. She looked at the heavenly dipper above her head, and there was no surprise in her eyes. There was only coldness and ruthlessness. Except for ruthlessness, there was only ruthlessness. Ka. The heavenly dipper trembled slightly, and a golden light fell and instantly went through Fairy Luo Hua's delicate body. Unlike ordinary cultivators, Fairy Luo Hua didn't die. Instead, her whole body trembled and made a clear boom sound. Then, a faint square outline appeared in her body. Whoosh! The celestial being's figure flashed, and he had already passed through the green light and landed beside Fairy Luo Hua. Then he stretched out his hands and a pair of big hand shadows fell on the square outline. Then, with a thunderous sound, the void for thousands of feet to the left was trembling. As the light and shadow intertwined, the outline of the heavenly dipper was taken out by the celestial being from Fairy Luo Hua's body. After losing the heavenly dipper, Fairy Luo Hua's face blushed, and a faint trace of vitality appeared in her eyes. However, this vitality was still very weak. Fairy Luo Hua only had time to say thank you, and her weak body had already turned into powder and scattered with the wind. After Fairy Luo Hua died, the heavenly dipper immediately produced a strong suction force. The surface of the shadow rushed into the heavenly dipper, and a strong aura that could destroy the void came out of the heavenly dipper, and the nearby broken wall of Zhurong Palace was lifted again. Fellow cultivator Luo Hua. Immortal Ting Jiao was naturally not Yuan Ye's opponent. Just when Fairy Luo Hua turned into ashes, he was also captured by Yuan Ye. His ruthless eyes he looked miserable and he growled and turned to Yuan Ye and said, "Kill me quickly, I really can't resist the corrosion of this ancient era magic. I really can't resist the erosion of this ancient era." After he finished speaking, his eyes opened, he, Teng Tian's heaviness and he Teng and An Teng Jiao. And he Master Teng. The heaven looked at the heavenly dipper and raised his right hand. Ka. A few times, the shadow of a large hand broke through immortal Ting Jiao's defense, and forcibly took the other half of the Ting Jiao shears out of immortal Ting Jiao's body. After the Ting Jiao shears were taken out, immortal Ting Jiao's face turned red. Although his withered body didn't turn into ashes, it was still very thin, without any flesh or blood. Swoosh! Xiao Hua waved his hand, and the other half of the Ting Jiao shears turned into a golden light and landed beside immortal Ting Jiao. Immortal Ting Jiao's eyes showed an indescribable bitterness and he said in a low voice, This Ting Jiao shears is indeed in the hands of a Dao cultivator. I have been looking for it for over 10,000 years. Unfortunately, without waiting for him to finish speaking, a deathly gray color quickly spread on his cheeks. Immortal Ting Jiao almost didn't have the strength to say another word. He only looked at the heaven, let go of his hand, and sent out his half of the Ting Jiao shears, combining it with the other half. In an extremely resplendent golden light, two golden flood dragons were entangled together. He opened his mouth and spat out two words, "Thank you." As for whether he was thanking the heaven for restoring the Ting Jiao shears or thanking the heaven for cutting off his unbearable life as a tool cultivator, perhaps only immortal Ting Jiao himself would know. Following the last two words of his life, immortal Ting Jiao's body floated into the fire pond like a fallen leaf, disappearing in a moment. The heaven lowered his head to take a look and sighed. With a wave of his hand, he put away the heavenly dipper and said loudly, "Fellow Taoist, quickly put I into the Kunlun immortal realm, I want to refine the heavenly dipper." "No problem," said Xiao Hua as he waved the Kunlun mirror and put away the heaven and heavenly dipper. Standing beside Xiao Hua was none other than Gu Yunzi of Kunlun sect. He did not know that the treasure in Xiaohua's hand was the Kunlun mirror, but when he heard the heaven's words, his face was filled with astonishment. His eyes rested on the Kunlun mirror, unwilling to move away for a long time. Xiaohua naturally noticed Gu Yunzi's expression, but he did not mind it. He raised his hand and performed a grabbing motion, and the two flood dragons fell into his hand, transforming into the Tingjiao shears again. Xiaohua gave it a brief glance and his heart was filled with emotions. He waved his hand and put the Tingjiao shears into his space, asking Reverend Yun to refine it for him. At the moment, Reverend Thunder was busy refining the 5 elements heavenly staff, so he did not have the time to help Xiaohua. "Senior, please spare our lives. Please spare our lives." Seeing Fairy Luohua and Reverend Tingjiao fall one after another, and their 2 ancient magical items being taken away by Xiaohua, the 2 sword cultivators of the 2nd tier of illusory sword hurriedly dropped to their knees and begged for their lives. Xiaohua looked at the 2 and said to Yuanya, "Yuanya, this is your own karma. You decide for yourself." Yuanya looked at the sword cultivator who had lost half of his life and said coldly, "Scram? Yes, yes, many thanks senior, many thanks senior." The 2 sword cultivators did not even reveal their names. They hurriedly stood up respectfully, and with one supporting the other, they turned into sword lights and hurriedly left. Now that the sword cultivators had left, Reverend Blue Feather and Reverend Jing Si had fallen, only Xiaohua and Gu Yunzi remained. Gu Yunzi was not a fool. He hurriedly bowed and said, "Since Senior interfered in the matters of Ardent Fire Mountain, how could Junior dare to interfere? Please forgive Junior's disrespect." Xiaohua nodded. Behind him, Fire Qilin and all the other disciples of Ardent Fire Mountain knelt down and kowtowed. "Senior Xiao, thank you for taking revenge for my Ardent Fire Mountain." As Fire Qilin's voice fell, Fire Hibiscus, Fire Luan and all the other disciples of Ardent Fire Mountain also knelt down on the ground, kowtowing with tears streaming down their faces. It was not that they did not think of taking revenge, but they did not have the strength. They did not even understand the matters of Ardent Fire Mountain, so how could they take revenge? They had never thought that Fairy Luohua, who had ambushed the 3 elders of Ardent Fire Mountain, would fall in Ardent Fire Mountain and be killed in front of the disciples of Ardent Fire Mountain. "Everyone get up." Xiaohua waved his hand and helped everyone up. He said indifferently, "This old man had some karma with the 3 elders of Ardent Fire Mountain, and now it can be considered settled." Saying this, he looked down into the abyss and said, "Since this old man helped Fire Qilin seize the position of Sect Master, this supreme treasure of Ardent Fire Mountain should be mine?" Fire Qilin, Fire Hibiscus and Fire Luan did not dare to be negligent. They hurriedly said in unison, "Yes, this supreme treasure is Senior's." "That's good." As Xiaohua spoke, he raised his hand and reached towards the fire pond in the abyss. A thunderous big hand was formed and fell into the fire pond. The big hand closed and caught the hundreds of fire chains. "Open." Xiaohua roared and retracted his big hand. The entire Zhurong Palace hall shook. Amidst the rumbling sounds of mountains collapsing and earth splitting, the fire chains were torn apart. The Yazi beast's soul essence that had been imprisoned for an unknown number of years whizzed out of the fire pond and rushed into the sky. Soon after, it roared a few times and flew to an unknown place amidst the flickering flames. All the disciples of Ardent Fire Mountain were dumbfounded. They had never thought that Xiaohua would release the soul essence that was regarded as a supreme treasure by Ardent Fire Mountain. Xiaohua retracted his divine ability and looked at Fire Qilin. "Fire Qilin, this old man has helped you obtain the position of Sect Master of Ardent Fire Mountain. You should take care of yourself." "Oh right, Huapengfei colluded with Meng Nation's Immortal Music Sect. That Taoist Blue Feather is actually not related to the 3 elders of Ardent Fire Mountain." "Yes, this junior knows his mistake." Hearing this, Huapengfei's face turned pale. He then took 2 steps forward and said, "This junior is too infatuated with power. This junior deserves death." Saying this, Huapengfei turned his hand and was about to strike his own head. Wait. Who would have thought that at this moment, Fire Qilin would shout and extend his hand to block Huapengfei's hand? "Sect Master Qilin?" Huapengfei smiled bitterly and said, "Could it be that you want to do it yourself?" Fire Qilin ignored Huapengfei and looked at Xiaohua. "Senior, Ardent Fire Mountain without great-grandfather is no longer Ardent Fire Mountain. Without the supreme treasure, Ardent Fire Mountain will no longer be Ardent Fire Mountain. Ardent Fire Mountain that has lost its family is no longer Ardent Fire Mountain in this junior's heart. With such a Ardent Fire Mountain, even if this junior blocks the Sect Master, so what? Moreover, this junior doesn't like to be a Sect Master. Senior? Without waiting for Fire Qilin to finish speaking, Hua Hibiscus hurriedly flew over and knelt down. This junior has a thought from Big Brother Qilin. Please accept us as your disciple. We wish to leave Ardent Fire Mountain. Yes. Fire Qilin similarly knelt down and said, this junior knows that his cultivation is shallow and doesn't dare to become senior's disciple. Please accept this junior as your disciple. Xiao Hua had some understanding of Fire Qilin and Hua Hibiscus. Seeing the two acting like this, he nodded and said, since that's the case, you all can follow this old man. Saying this, Xiao Hua waved his big sleeve and took Fire Qilin, Hua Hibiscus and Zhen Qing. His figure moved and rushed out of the abyss. Yuanya and Gu Yunzi didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly followed. The three of them disappeared in a moment. After everyone left, only the disciples of Ardent Fire Mountain remained in Zhurong Palace Hall. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. After half a cup of tea's time, Huoluan said with waning interest, forget it. Since that's the case, my Ardent Fire Mountain will disperse. No. Hua Pengfei hurriedly shouted, although the two great-granduncles have left, you are still here. Although my Ardent Fire Mountain has declined, it is still a sect. This is the painstaking effort of the three great ancestors. We can't just abandon it like this. I am willing to support great-granduncles as the sect master of my Ardent Fire Mountain. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. I am really grateful for everyone's support. I will try my best to add one more chapter. This will be the end of the story of Ardent Fire Mountain. Chapter 5098. We're willing too. The other disciples of Blazing Fire Mountain cheered as well. Blazing Fire Mountain can't be without a sect master. Since Granduncle is the only son who is qualified to be the sect master, he can sit on the sect master's seat today. Huoluan ascended to the position of Blazing Fire Mountain's sect master as she wished. She was ready to reorganize the Blazing Fire Mountain. Xiao Hua led a group of cultivators and rushed into the sky. With a sweep of his divine sense, he already knew that the Ardent Fire Mountain's forbidden array had been destroyed by the Sword Cultivator. Therefore Xiao Hua's figure flashed and flew out of the Ardent Fire Mountain, landing on a foothill several hundred li away. After putting everyone down, Yuanya and Gu Yunzi flew over. As soon as Gu Yunzi landed, he immediately said respectfully, Senior Xiao, since you have a relationship with Blazing Fire Mountain, why did you hand over Blazing Fire Mountain to a disciple who colluded with sword cultivators? In the future, will Blazing Fire Mountain be a pawn of sword cultivators or a sect of Dao cultivators? Xiao Hua smiled and asked, Gu Yunzi, you were also invited by Huoluan. It seems that you shouldn't be the one to say this. It should be Hua Qilin or Hua Hibiscus. No wonder when I asked Huoluan if she invited other cultivators a few days ago, she kept hemming and hawing. If I knew she invited sword cultivators, I would definitely leave in a huff. Gu Yunzi shook his head and said, even if I owe the three elders of Blazing Fire Mountain a favor, I have the right to do this in the face of the sword cultivator who killed the three elders. I'm sure the three elders won't blame me if they know. Forget it. Xiao Hua no longer saw the difference between sword cultivators and Dao cultivators. He smiled and said, Blazing Fire Mountain only has 3 legitimate sons. Since Hua Qilin and Hua Hibiscus are unwilling to stay in Blazing Fire Mountain, Huoluan will naturally be in charge of Blazing Fire Mountain. This is the will of heaven and the will of the people. As for where Blazing Fire Mountain will go in the future, it's their own business. It has nothing to do with you, me, or the entire Dao cultivators. Moreover, the sword cultivators have already taken over Sky Patrol City. It's said that many swordsmen have gone to the Cultivation 3 kingdoms to train. My Dao cultivators have also gone to the Hun kingdom to train. Slowly, sword cultivators and Dao cultivators will merge. It doesn't matter who is the chess piece of who. Sigh. Gu Yunzi naturally had foresight. By the time Xiao Hua finished speaking, he had already understood. He could not help but sigh. Senior, you're right. The Great War of Dao and Sword back then was definitely the opening of a new era. We are now in the midst of an era of change. Oh, that's right. Hearing Gu Yunzi mention the changes in the era, Xiao Hua immediately thought of the method of selecting spiritual roots and the cultivation method of spiritual roots. He hurriedly asked, now that the spiritual energy of heaven and earth has changed greatly, how will the Kunlun sect deal with it? This. Gu Yunzi hesitated for a moment. He looked at Zhen Qing and the others and said embarrassedly, Senior, I have something to tell you in private. Xiao Hua nodded. He turned to Zhen Qing and said, "Martial uncle, the matter of the Ardent Fire Mountain has ended. You can now return to the Zhenlei Hall and report this matter to Xing Yunzi. I still have some matters to attend to, so I won't be sending Martial Uncle back to the Imperial Thunder Sect." Taoist Master Xiao. Hearing Xiao Hua still calling him Martial Uncle in front of Gu Yunzi, Zhen Qing felt warm in his heart. However, when he heard that Xiao Hua was not returning to the Imperial Thunder Sect, he hurriedly asked, You're not returning to the Imperial Thunder Sect?" He. Xiao Hua laughed and said, "The Imperial Thunder Sect is Martial Uncle's Imperial Thunder Sect, not mine. My return to the Imperial Thunder Sect is not legitimate, so why would I find trouble for no reason?" Sun Shu hurriedly said, "Senior brother, didn't you say earlier? Senior brother has just left the Sky Thunder Peak, and Sect Master Qian Lazy has already issued a summoning order. Qian Lazy has already fallen, so there's no need to mention this matter again." Before Sun Shu could finish speaking, Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, "The karma between me and the Imperial Thunder Sect has already been settled, so there's no need to complicate matters. Of course, Martial Uncle is still Martial Uncle and Junior Sister is still Junior Sister. In this vast world, if anyone dares to bully my Martial Uncle and Junior Sister, my fortune gate will definitely come out in full force." "All right." Sun Shu's expression was a little gloomy. He knew that Xiao Hua could no longer return to the Imperial Thunder Sect, so he said in a low voice, "Senior brother, if you have time, come to the Imperial Thunder Sect to visit your old friends." Zhen Qing hurriedly gave Sun Shu a look, obviously telling Sun Shu to mention the Myriad Lightning Valley so that Xiao Hua could reminisce about old times. However, Sun Shu pretended not to see it. She understood Xiao Hua very well, not inferior to Fairy Hongxia and Xue Xue. She knew that Xiao Hua was a nostalgic person, and he would definitely return to visit the Myriad Lightning Valley's disciples. Of course, with Xiao Hua's current strength, even if he went, other than the Myriad Lightning Valley's disciples, the other Imperial Thunder Sect's disciples would definitely not know. She had no reason to come here in advance as if she was using family ties to coerce Xiao Hua. Feeling helpless, Zhen Qing could only bow and say, "In that case I will take my leave." After saying that, Zhen Yu knelt on the ground and kowtowed, "Taoist Xiao, this little one will also take his leave. This little one wishes Taoist Xiao good fortune and good health. And quickly go." Xiao Hua smiled and helped this devout believer up. He said, "Cultivate well and save the world. Yes, this little one will remember Taoist Zhao's teachings in this life." Zhen Yu stood up and said while releasing the flying boat. He jumped onto the flying boat first and said to Zhen Qing and the rest, "Seniors, please board the boat." Zhen Qing, Sun Qian and Sun Shu boarded the flying boat and reluctantly waved goodbye to Xiao Hua. When the flying boat was activated, it disappeared in a moment. Xiao Hua looked at the Fire Qilin and Hua Farong and said to Yuan Ye, "Yeah, these two children's aptitude is not bad. Are you willing to accept them as your disciples?" "Master." Yuan Ye replied without any trace of politeness, "Disciples' cultivation technique is not suitable for them. Disciple does not want to accept them." "All right." Xiao Hua pondered for a moment, then said to the Fire Qilin and Hua Farong, "Don't be disappointed. With my disciple's strength, accepting you as his disciples is indeed not appropriate. Please wait a moment." Saying that, Xiao Hua activated the Kunlun mirror and released Xiong Yi. Xiong Yi didn't have time to take a closer look. He quickly bowed and said, "Greetings, Master." "Xiong Yi." Xiao Hua looked at the Fire Qilin and Hua Farong and said, "These two are Master's old acquaintances. Their temperament is not bad. Help Master find a suitable master for them in the Fortune Gate, regardless of whether they are inner or outer disciples." "Yes, disciple understands." Xiong Yi agreed without hesitation when he heard that he didn't need to accept any disciples. Xiong Yi looked around and said with a smile, "Master, is this the Yilin mainland? Or the Dawn Rain mainland?" "This is already the Dawn Rain mainland." Xiao Hua smiled and said, "Bring them back first and discuss with Li Xiang." "Yes, disciple understands." Xiao Hua didn't say much, but Xiong Yi understood Xiao Hua's meaning and bowed respectfully. "Fire Qilin, Hua Farong." Xiao Hua looked at the two and said solemnly, "From now on, you are no longer Ardent Fire Mountain's disciples. Since you have entered my Fortune Gate, you must abide by my Fortune Gate's rules. Don't create trouble." "Yes, disciple understands." Seeing that another late nascent soul cultivator had appeared, the Fire Qilin and Hua Farong didn't dare to breathe loudly. Hearing Xiao Hua's words, they bowed respectfully. After Xiao Hua activated the Kunlun mirror and released the three people, he looked around and said, Gu Yunzi, if you have something to say it here. Yes, senior. Gu Yunzi naturally wouldn't let Yuanya leave. He hurriedly looked at the Kunlun mirror in Xiaohua's hand and asked in a low voice, Junior wants to ask Senior, is the magic treasure in your hand, the Kunlun mirror? Yes. Xiaohua didn't hide anything and nodded. This magic treasure is indeed the Kunlun mirror. Yes. Gu Yunzi was already certain, but when he heard Xiaohua admit it himself, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He said somewhat enviously, Senior, you're really lucky. This Kunlun mirror is an ancient artifact. As far as this junior knows, the Kunlun mirror was the most precious treasure of our Kunlun sect in ancient times. Only those who can control the Kunlun mirror are qualified to be the sect leader of our Kunlun sect. Every generation of Kunlun sect leader relies on the Kunlun mirror to have the ability to penetrate the heavens and penetrate the earth. Xiaohua's face revealed an intriguing smile and said, Gu Yunzi, are you reminding this old man to return this Kunlun mirror, intact? I wouldn't dare. Gu Yunzi hurriedly smiled and said, Junior definitely didn't mean that. Junior has already made it clear that the Kunlun mirror is an ancient magic treasure with incomparable power. Those who don't have great luck will never be able to obtain it. Since Senior has already obtained it, it means that in this vast world only Senior is qualified to control it. Junior can only be envious and dare not be jealous. Secondly, Senior's current ability is unrivaled in the world. Even if my Kunlun sect uses all its power, we still can't defeat Senior. What right does my Kunlun sect have to ask Senior? Xiaohua nodded and said with a smile, Kunlun sect is indeed a great Taoist sect with inheritance. Your bearing is extraordinary. If it were other sects, I'm afraid they would have already suppressed me with righteousness. Gu Yunzi smiled and said, Senior, you think too highly of my Kunlun sect. Since my Kunlun sect is established in the Xiaoyu continent, it's inevitable that we won't be secular. If Senior's strength is not enough, who knows what my Kunlun sect's masters will do. After all, this is the Kunlun mirror. Others don't know this treasure, but my Kunlun sect knows it clearly. Hearing Gu Yunzi being so honest, Xiaohua felt a little strange and said with a smile, You stayed here just for these words? Of course not. Gu Yunzi shook his head and said, Junior stayed here because I have a few ideas. You actually have a few ideas? Xiaohua nodded and took out a jade table, spiritual fruits and other things. He said, Sit down, I'm all ears. Senior, please don't be so polite. Gu Yunzi hurriedly waved his hand. However, Xiaohua interrupted him and said, This spiritual fruit can make up for one's lifespan. Are you sure you don't want to use it? If that's the case, Junior will disturb you. Hearing this, Gu Yunzi immediately sat down in front of the jade table, took a peach of immortality and answered with a smile. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, give it a recommendation vote, collect it and reward it. Thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 5099. After Gu Yunzi ate a peach of immortality, he said, Actually, Junior's first thought is to invite Senior to join my Kunlun sect. After all, Senior took the Kunlun mirror, which means that you are fated with my Kunlun sect. But then I thought about it, with Senior's strength, how would my sect master deal with it? Moreover, Senior's strength is indeed an anomaly in my Xiaoyu continent. This matter is related to the sect's plan. Junior can't decide without permission. I have to return to the sect master and ask for his opinion. Xiaohua didn't know whether to agree or not, so he asked, What's the second thought? The second thought is, Gu Yunzi said with a smile, Junior wants to know where Senior got the Kunlun mirror? After all, my Kunlun sect has always regarded finding the Kunlun mirror as the #1 priority for all the disciples in my sect. However, for so many years, Junior has never heard of any news about the Kunlun mirror in the Xiaoyu continent. Of course, this is Senior's secret. If it's inconvenient, you don't have to tell Junior. Actually, it's nothing. Xiaohua said with a smile, This Kunlun mirror is not a complete one. I got different fragments from different people and finally refined them together. Rock Border Sect. Just as Xiaohua finished speaking, Gu Yunzi's expression changed slightly, and he said in a low voice, Junior understands. That year, my Kunlun sect heard that the Rock Border Sect had the Kunlun mirror and specially sent disciples to check it out. But the name of the magic treasure was Kunlun mirror, but its power didn't match the name of the Kunlun mirror. Moreover, the Kunlun mirror was only controlled by a golden core disciple. After my Kunlun sect disciples saw it, they returned in disappointment. Junior and the others didn't expect the ancient magic treasure to be broken. If it wasn't broken, how could it be scattered all over the Xiaoyu continent? Xiaohua replied. Yes, Junior understands. Gu Yunzi nodded and asked again, can Junior report this matter to the sect master? Yes. Xiaohua said with a smile, I used the Kunlun mirror to avoid people. Your sect master will know eventually. Thank you, Senior. Gu Yunzi finished speaking and ate another immortal peach before saying, since Senior is so generous, I won't hide anything from you. My last thought is, although Senior has obtained the Kunlun mirror, have you obtained the true method of refining and activating the Kunlun mirror? Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He shook his head and said, to tell you the truth, this old man really doesn't have the real method to refine and activate the Kunlun mirror. Now, I can only rely on what I obtained from refining the Kunlun mirror to barely activate the Kunlun fairyland. Hearing this, Gu Yunzi hurriedly got up, tidied up his Taoist robe, and took out a jade piece that looked like a magic cloud from his sleeve. He respectfully handed it to Xiaohua and said, Senior, I am Gu Yunzi of Kunlun sect. I would like to invite you to Kunlun Mountain. Is it possible? Haha. Seeing that Gu Yunzi was so serious, Xiaohua couldn't be rude. He hurriedly got up and put away the jade slip. He said with a smile, although I've never been to the Kunlun sect, I've heard of some of the deeds of the Kunlun sect fellow Taoist. Now that I see your actions today, it's quite to my liking. I must go to the Kunlun sect. I hope the Kunlun sect won't disappoint me. After Xiaohua put away the jade slip, Gu Yunzi's heart calmed down. He said, Junior can rest assured. According to what Junior knows, there is a method to refine and activate the Kunlun mirror in my Kunlun Mountain secret territory. With Senior's strength and Senior's Fortune Gate's influence, I'm sure my sect master will consider inviting Senior to explore the Kunlun secret territory. Kunlun secret territory? Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He asked curiously, is that a forbidden area of your Kunlun sect? Senior can understand it as a forbidden area. Gu Yunzi answered honestly, of course Senior, you can also understand it as a forbidden area for our Kunlun sect to pass down our orthodoxy. It is said that there are many lost cultivation methods and secret skills of our Kunlun sect in there. Whenever a new sect leader takes over the position of sect leader, he must enter the secret realm to search for opportunities for himself and for Kunlun sect. If that's the case, this Xiao understands. Xiaohua nodded and said with a smile, no wonder there are rumors in the Xiaoyu continent that your Kunlun sect has an inheritance. I'm afraid the root of it is here. Speaking of this, Xiaohua took out a dozen jade slips from his storage pouch and handed them to Gu Yunzi, saying, in that case, it's impolite to visit. This is a gift from this Xiao to your Kunlun sect. Please bring it to your sect master. Daoist Xianjing. When Gu Yunzi heard this, beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. He hurriedly said in a low voice, Senior, my sect master's name is a little special. It's Xianjing, there's no Daoist Xianjing. Xiaohua was a little embarrassed when he heard this. In fact, he didn't know who the Kunlun sect master was. Before Zhenqing left, she had asked him through voice transmission. At this time he casually added 2 Daoist Xianjing. He. Xiaohua smiled and said, it seems this Xiao was careless. In that case this Xiao should apologize. Gu Yunzi naturally understood the meaning of Xiaohua's jade slip. He waved his hand and said, Senior is too polite. Whether or not we can enter the Kunlun secret territory depends on our sect master. This Junior doesn't dare to decide for our sect master. Junior also doesn't dare to accept these things on behalf of my Kunlun sect. Take a look first. Xiaohua smiled slightly and replied without surprise, if you feel that it's inappropriate, you don't have to. Alright. Gu Yunzi certainly couldn't not give Xiaohua face. He took the jade slip and took one at random. He immersed his divine sense into it to take a look. He. Xiaohua laughed secretly. He wasn't afraid that Gu Yunzi would look at it. He was afraid that Gu Yunzi wouldn't look at it. He was also not afraid that Gu Yunzi would accept it. He was afraid that Gu Yunzi wouldn't accept it. Even the Yilan Continent's Heaven Alliance and Tao Alliance couldn't resist the temptation. How could the Kunlun sect master in the Lost Land resist it? Sure enough, as soon as Gu Yunzi's divine sense entered the jade slip, the expression on his face froze. The eagerness and disbelief in his eyes had already emerged like weeds. Gu Yunzi knew that it was extremely inappropriate for him to continue looking, but the contents of the jade slip were really tempting. He couldn't help but continue looking. After struggling for a few times, he finally withdrew his divine sense from the jade slip. Then he looked at the other dozen jade slips reluctantly. He didn't dare to release his divine sense anymore. Instead, he held the jade slips tightly in his hands. His palms were sweaty. He even looked up at Xiaohua nervously. He opened his mouth, but his mouth was a little dry. He didn't know what to say. "Don't be so nervous." Xiaohua smiled and said, "This is a gift from me to your Kunlun sect. Keep it first." As he spoke, Xiaohua took out a storage bag and handed it to Guyunzi, saying, "This is my gift to you." Really? Guyunzi really regretted asking such a stupid question. However, his eyes betrayed him again. It's just copying the contents of the jade slip. It's very simple." Xiaohua smiled and pointed out the things in the storage bag. "Other than that, there are the spirit fruits and some spirit herbs that you just ate. It's nothing. Just based on your request to go to Kunlun Mountain, these things are worth it." Hearing Xiaohua say that there were jade slips in the storage bag, Guyunzi's heart couldn't help but jump a few times. He closed his eyes and pondered for a moment. Then he opened his eyes and said with a smile, "Senior, you've given me too much. I'm a little afraid to accept it." "Don't worry," Xiaohua said indifferently, "this is not only for you but also for the Kunlun sect. It's also for the cultivators of the Three Kingdoms and the Xiaoyu continent." Guyunzi sucked in a breath of cold air. As if he understood something, he hurriedly bowed and said, "Junior thanks you on behalf of the cultivators of the Three Kingdoms. Please get up." Xiaohua smiled and helped Guyunzi up. "You can rest assured now, right?" "Yes, Junior can rest assured." Guyunzi calmly took the storage pouch from Xiaohua. Without even looking at it, he also put the dozens of jade slips into it and carefully hid them. He said, "Junior will now return to Kunlun Mountain through the night. I will report Senior's things and Senior's intentions to my sect leader. And go back quickly." Xiaohua nodded. "When I have time, I'll pay a visit to your sect master." "Yes, Junior will wait for Senior's arrival at Kunlun Mountain." Guyunzi knew the importance of the storage bag on his body, so he didn't dare to stay here for long. After bidding farewell to Xiaohua, he immediately turned into a rainbow and soared into the sky. Seeing Guyunzi leave, Xiaohua smiled. He naturally knew that there was a Kunlun sect in the Lian country of the Xiaoyu continent, but he had never associated this Kunlun sect with the Kunlun mirror. He didn't expect to meet a disciple of the Kunlun sect today when he came to the Blazing Fire Mountain to settle the karma. He even learned the secret of the Kunlun sect. Since the Kunlun secret territory was the forbidden area of the Kunlun sect, and only the sect masters of the Kunlun sect could enter, then it was obviously not so easy for Xiaohua to enter the Kunlun secret territory to find the method to refine and activate the Kunlun mirror. Xiaohua used the spiritual root selection method, the nascent soul cultivation method, the primordial spirit cultivation method, and even various cultivation methods and secret techniques obtained from the Yilan continent as a stepping stone. He didn't believe that the Kunlun sect wouldn't open the door to the Kunlun secret territory. "Let's go." Xiaohua waved his hand and said, "Follow Master to see the place where you lived when you were refining qi." "Yes, Master." Yuanya agreed and flew into the sky with Xiaohua, turning into a stream of light and disappearing. A few days later, Shang Huaming was already in sight, but when Xiaohua saw the place that he had been yearning for day and night, he couldn't help but frown slightly. The fog array around the Yellow Flower Ridge had disappeared, and in front of the mountain peak, there were thousands of qi refining cultivators dressed in the 10,000 Flower Valleys uniform. Under the command of more than 10 Foundation Establishment disciples, they were activating the Yellow Talisman magic weapons and other attacks. In this attack, the mysterious face of the Yellow Flower Ridge was revealed. Behind the crumbling array, there were also thousands of disciples dressed in the 100 Grass Gates uniform waiting for the attack. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, collect, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 5100. Boom. Coincidentally, just as Xiaohua was frowning, the great formation of Yellow Flower Ridge collapsed. In a flash of light, the figures of thousands of 100 Herbs Gate disciples were exposed. Kill. The Foundation Establishment disciples of 100 Herbs Gate roared. Thousands of disciples activated their yellow talismans and magic tools to form a great formation and rush towards the attacking disciples of 10,000 Flowers Valley. Kill. The disciples of 10,000 Flowers Valley were already prepared. Seeing the great formation of Yellow Flower Ridge collapse, their morale was immediately boosted. They also roared and rushed forward. For a moment, tens of thousands of aura refining disciples and Foundation Establishment disciples were fighting. Seeing Xiaohua's figure slightly stop and frown, Yuanya hurriedly said, "Master, is this your master's gate? Should disciple go down and help them out?" "No need." Xiaohua slightly shook his head and looked somewhere. "He's not in a hurry, why should I be?" Yuanya was puzzled. He looked at the sky above Yellow Flower Ridge and saw a handsome male cultivator in gorgeous clothes with a cold smile on his face. He was indifferently watching the battle of Yellow Flower Ridge. Behind his back, he held an emerald jade ball in each hand. The jade ball spun strangely as the male cultivator's fingers nimbly rubbed it. Although the black silk and clouds cleverly concealed the male cultivator's figure, these concealments were almost useless in Yuanya's eyes. Who is this demon?" Yuanya asked curiously. "It seems his strength is very weak." "This is Master's second senior brother." Xiaohua smiled. "His name is Zhang Qingxiao. He's a human who was possessed by a Diluo beast." "And disciple understands?" Yuanya nodded. There was no change in his expression. Yuanya was extremely loyal to Xiaohua. Since Zhang Qingxiao was Xiaohua's second senior brother, he was Yuanya's second senior uncle. He definitely wouldn't look down on Zhang Qingxiao because he was possessed by a Diluo beast. Xiaohua moved and Yuanya followed. Yuanya flew behind Zhang Qingxiao, but Zhang Qingxiao still didn't notice. Xiaohua suppressed the excitement in his heart and slightly bit his lips. After a while, he said in a low voice, "The battle at Yellow Flower Ridge is very fierce. Why don't you go down and take a look? No matter what, this 100 Herbs Gate is where you put your heart and soul into." As expected by Xiaohua, Zhang Qingxiao's figure stiffened. The jade ball that seemed to be flowing in his hand suddenly stopped. But after a few breaths, the jade ball slowly rotated again, and Zhang Qingxiao's reply came in neither fast nor slow. "Little junior brother, you're finally back. Alas, I knew you'd come back, but it's been too long, so long that I've almost forgotten that I still have a junior brother like you. Yellow Flower Ridge is my home. I will return sooner or later. Although it's been a long time, you're still my second senior brother," Xiaohua said with a smile. His eyes were already moist. Through the hazy mist, Xiaohua could clearly see that Zhang Qingxiao, who had turned around, was still as young and handsome as before. "You old demon, why are you still so handsome?" Xiaohua sniffed and smiled as he stretched out his arms. Zhang Qingxiao looked at Xiaohua's unchanged appearance and shook her head. "You little monster, you're actually stronger than me?" She stretched out her arms and hugged Xiaohua. The reunion after hundreds of years was much warmer than the reunion of life and death in the early years. There was less suspicion and more concern. Zhang Qingxiao didn't even release his devil vision or divine sense. They patted each other's shoulders. All their concern was in this one pat. The two then let go. Without waiting for Xiaohua to speak, Zhang Qingxiao first glanced at Yuanya and said to Xiaohua, "I really didn't expect that I'd be able to see you one last time before I die." Xiaohua wasn't surprised at all. He smiled and said, "Don't worry, little brother is back. Your problem is no longer a problem. Do you think that your death will solve everything? Don't let your imagination run wild." Zhang Qingxiao's face showed surprise. She asked curiously, "How can you tell? Isn't it because you can't control the invasion of devil qi? Aren't you afraid that you'll turn into a devil and lose your consciousness?" Xiaohua smiled and said, "Why can't I tell? Damn it." Zhang Qingxiao smiled bitterly. She touched her nose and said, "Are you still my little junior brother who's only in the Golden Core realm? It's only been 682 years, you actually cultivated to such a terrifying level?" Xiaohua shrugged and said as if ridiculing, "It's not that little brother's cultivation is fast, it's that second senior brother's cultivation is too slow. If you had the strength to pass the tribulation, little brother might have done it himself. Now that you're only in the late nascent soul realm, let little brother's disciple do it." Zhang Qingxiao curled her lips and said, "You're just bragging, right? I didn't expect that after hundreds of years, your bragging skills would improve the fastest." "Yeah." Xiaohua ignored Zhang Qingxiao and turned to Yuanya and said, "Help your second senior uncle deal with the devil qi." "Yes, master." Yuanya hurriedly flew over and bowed. "Disciple greets second senior uncle. Quickly get up." It was fine for Zhang Qingxiao to joke with Xiaohua, but when she saw the devil qi on Yuanya's body, she felt like an ant in front of this devil qi. How could she dare to let Yuanya salute her? He hurriedly tried to help Yuanya up, but just as he raised his hand to touch Yuanya's arm, he felt a strange suction force from Yuanya's arm. Before he could react, the nascent soul in his lower dantian, which had been eroded by the devil qi, suddenly became lighter and the devil chi that had been binding him was swept away. How is it? Xiao Hua said with a smile. It's just a small accident, second senior brother is too concerned. Zhang Qingxiao's matter was originally a piece of cake for Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua could do it himself. But when Xiao Hua heard Zhang Qingxiao say that it was the last time they would see each other before death, he knew that Zhang Qingxiao took this matter too seriously. Because of this, it would give birth to a knot in her heart, so she simply let Yuanya do it and let Zhang Qingxiao relax. Sure enough, when Zhang Qingxiao saw that the huge stone in her heart was easily removed by a junior, her handsome face blushed a little. She said with some embarrassment, "This, cough, thank you for your trouble. I don't dare." Yuanya stood up respectfully and said, "Disciple is a junior, serving second martial uncle is what I should do." Of course. Xiao Hua smiled and said, "Second senior brother, don't be careless. Although your demon heart Dao Seed technique is unique, it's actually very different from the real cultivation method of the demon clan. Similarly, it's also contrary to the cultivation method of my Dao cultivators. You'd better not try it for now. Wait for me to help you think of a foolproof plan. It won't be too late to cultivate then." Zhang Qingxiao naturally knew the drawbacks of her cultivation. Hearing Xiao Hua's words, she smiled bitterly and said, "Do you think I want to cultivate like this? I have some devil cultivation methods, and I also obtained the condensed knowledge treasure when I was alive. All of a sudden, my Dao cultivation realm advanced by leaps and bounds. I can't give up the devil cultivation method, so I can't balance these two cultivation methods. To tell you the truth, I didn't dare to cultivate 20 years ago. Today is the last time I take a look at Yellow Flower Ridge. I have to make a decision. As for how to cultivate in the future, I can't see any hope." "Don't worry." Xiao Hua patted Zhang Qingxiao's shoulder and said, "I have a Mahayana realm devil dragon here, who is also transforming from a human into a devil. You can ask him for advice. Moreover, I also have a devil lord friend, he can also give you advice." "Damn it." Zhang Qingxiao suddenly jumped up and shouted, "Little junior brother, could it be that you went to the devil realm in the past few hundred years? We'll talk about where I went later." Xiao Hua smiled and raised his hand to point below and said, "I'll talk about old times for a while. Your disciples and grand disciples will be killed by the 10,000 Flower Valley." Hearing this, Zhang Qingxiao coldly snorted and said, "What 10,000 Flower Valley disciple? He's just a Shanghua sect disciple who came to test us. As for the 100 Grass sect disciple, I can't even take care of myself, so I can't take care of them." "What about senior sister?" Xiao Hua asked. "Don't worry about junior sister's safety. I've already made arrangements. If there's any trouble in her residence, my heavenly demon sect will definitely come out in full force. Sun Yunzi still hasn't given up." Xiao Hua slightly narrowed his eyes and said, "Do you know where he is?" "Sun Yunzi is already an elder of Shanghua sect. He's not in Huayuanshan mountain range. Who knows where he went?" Zhang Qingxiao said with a somewhat bitter smile, "Other than immortal Luni's death, I can't even find Fairy Yingzhua's whereabouts. Fairy Yingzhua has already been possessed by a demon." Xiao Hua said, "And I've also imprisoned that demon. Xuanyan sect's enmity can be considered settled. Once I find Sun Yunzi, I can avenge my master." "It seems that the demon has already told you everything?" Zhang Qingxiao's face showed a trace of relief and asked. Xiao Hua nodded, then looked down and said, "I'd better kill these annoying flies first." "Up to you." Zhang Qingxiao waved his hand and said, "This place has already been exposed, I've already prepared to give up." "Since you've already given up, then use this place as bait." Xiao Hua smiled and took out the Kunlun mirror. As the mirror vibrated, Li Xiang and Xiong Yi flew out and hurriedly bowed. "Greetings, master." Xiao Hua raised his hand and pointed at Yellow Flower Ridge, saying, "This is where I cultivated when I was refining qi, it's called Yellow Flower Ridge. In the future, it will be the Fortune Gate's foundation." Xiong Yi and Li Xiang looked down and understood. They replied in unison, "Disciple understands." "Good, I'll leave this matter to you." Xiao Hua activated the Kunlun mirror again, and groups of Fortune Gate outer disciples flew out from the mirror, forming a battle formation in midair. "The ones guarding the mountain are 100 Herbs Gate's disciples, they're on our side. The ones attacking the mountain are the sects of Master's enemies. You guys decide what to do." "Yes." Xiong Yi's gaze swept over the land, and a fierce light flashed in his eyes. He raised his hand and said, "Disciples, although this old man has killed his way to Yellow Flower Ridge, P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Happy birthday to you. Chapter 5101. Kill. The crowd of Fortune Gate's outer disciples roared in unison, their voices shaking the heavens like war drums. Whether it was the Splendid Sect's disciples or the 100 Herbs Gate's disciples, all of them turned around in panic. While they were still dumbfounded, tens of thousands of Fortune Gate's disciples fell from the sky like a flood, majestically killing their way over. Not to mention the 100 Herbs Gate and Splendid Sect's disciples, even Zhang Qingxiao was dumbfounded. She thought that Xiao Hua would order Yuanya to expel the besieging Qi refinement disciples, but she didn't expect that Xiao Hua would send out tens of thousands of ordinary disciples. Moreover, most of these disciples were Foundation Establishment cultivators. Tens of thousands of Foundation Establishment cultivators. This was the rhythm of sweeping through the three mainlands. Moreover, Zhang Qingxiao didn't think that Xiao Hua, who was used to keeping a low profile and hiding his strength, would only have so many disciples in the Kunlun mirror. Just looking at Yuanya, who made her tremble in fear, Zhang Qingxiao knew that Xiao Hua must have other backup plans in the Kunlun mirror. With such an iron army, not to mention the blood feud with Shang Huaming, it wouldn't be difficult to annihilate the Xuanyan School, Splendid Sect, and Seven Skills Sect. What kind of opportunity did junior brother encounter? Why is it so mysterious? Zhang Qingxiao was shocked and couldn't help but glance at Xiao Hua again, inwardly thinking, it's only been a few hundred years, my heavenly demon sect didn't have such strength, and the Fortune Gate's forces that spread throughout the three countries and Huan country were only gradually showing their ferocity. How could his Fortune Gate be so powerful? It must be senior sister's life spirit tablet that let you know that junior brother is still alive in this world, right? Xiao Hua asked without rhyme or reason. Zhang Qingxiao was naturally stunned, but after several breaths she came to her senses and nodded. That's right, I learned that you were expelled from the Imperial Lightning Sect and then mysteriously disappeared. I didn't know whether you were alive or dead. Suddenly, I thought of Jianghu. As long as he's fine, you're naturally fine. So I hurried to Yellow Flower Ridge. I didn't dare to say too much to junior sister, so I only asked about the life spirit tablet. After knowing that you were safe and sound, I immediately left, afraid that junior sister would think too much. Yes, I also know a little about what happened after that. Xiao Hua smiled and said, I've already met Yi Yin in Million Mountain. Damn it. Zhang Qingxiao suddenly came to a realization and cursed angrily, this damn thing, I just received a message from him 2 days ago saying that he was preparing to return from Huan Kingdom. Why didn't he tell me? He. Xiao Hua replied, it was little brother who didn't let him say it. Moreover, don't forget how you gave him the order and how he reported it to you. Zhang Qingxiao came to a realization and snorted coldly. When I heard that he was returning from Huan Kingdom, I immediately scolded him. How would I understand the hidden meaning in his words? Second brother. Xiao Hua looked at Zhang Qingxiao and said, thank you. Why are you thanking me? Zhang Qingxiao was a little puzzled. I've already seen Li Zongbao. Xiao Hua explained, Yin met me when he risked his life to save Li Zongbao. And this guy is not bad, saving him from the Pillar of Heaven's peak was not in vain. Zhang Qingxiao nodded non-committally, and didn't mention her death order at all. However, speaking up to here, Zhang Qingxiao suddenly came to a realization, and looked at Xiao Hua with some disdain. I understand you're still worried about Laozi. You didn't let Yin tell me because you wanted to see if I would commit any crimes, right? How can little brother be worried about second brother? Xiao Hua answered, little brother is worried about the heavenly demon sect. And I understand. Zhang Qingxiao watched as the Fortune Gate disciples ignored the fleeing Shanghua sect's disciples and only killed the Shanghua sect's disciples who were putting up a desperate struggle. Zhang Qingxiao said indifferently, your Fortune Gate is much more powerful than my heavenly demon sect. It's good that second brother understands. Xiao Hua smiled and said, with you and me around, the Fortune Gate and heavenly demon sect won't have any big disputes, but if we're not around, it's inevitable that there will be conflicts. Little brother has to give some instructions to his disciples. Whatever. Zhang Qingxiao waved his hand and said, I've already agreed to let Yin return, and I'm ready to hand over the heavenly demon sect's matters to him. I want to save my own life first. And this is your heavenly demon sect's matter, it's inconvenient for little brother to participate. Xiao Hua smiled, but Yin is a good candidate. Che. Zhang Qingxiao said, don't forget you're my heavenly demon sect's deputy sect chief. If you say so then so be it, I don't care. Xiao Hua shrugged, looking even more shameless than Zhang Qingxiao. Zhang Qingxiao helplessly looked at Xiao Hua and shook his head, saying, "But there's something I need to tell you clearly. This Yiyin is no longer the child we saved on the Pillar of Heaven's peak." Xiao Hua was surprised and asked curiously, "What do you mean? I remember I saw him afterwards. I didn't see anything strange about him." "It's very simple." Zhang Qingxiao thought for a while and said, "Back then I was angry that you were expelled by the Imperial Thunder Sect, and I knew that you were very nostalgic and wouldn't bear to let anyone touch the Imperial Thunder Sect. So I vented my anger on the Black Sky Sect. After that battle, my Heavenly Demon Sect made a name for itself, but we also suffered a lot of losses. This child and a deputy sect chief of Tiangang Sect named Yiyin were injured at the same time, and both of their injuries were very serious. I could only save one, and that Yiyin was from the same mysterious family as this child, so I sympathized with him and would rather die to save him. So I merged the two of them into one. In order to commemorate Yiyin and to conceal his origin, this child changed his name to Yiyin. However, Yiyin's performance in these past few years was extremely good, and it exceeded my expectations. He's really a good candidate." Xiao Hua smiled bitterly and said, You don't have to tell me. It's rare for me to do a good deed, and it's even done together with you." Zhang Qingxiao stretched and said, "If I don't tell you the details of this child that I saved, how can it be done?" "Up to you." Xiao Hua waved his hand and his heart felt warm. "All right." Zhang Qingxiao suddenly thought of something and asked, "Do you know who the two nascent soul cultivators who chased after you were?" "I don't know. However, I've seen their faces. If they didn't disguise themselves, I would be able to recognize them." Xiao Hua replied, "Of course, I heard from Yiyin that you've already started investigating, so I'm too lazy to look for any clues." "Take a look." While speaking, Zhang Qingxiao took out a jade slip from her bosom and threw it to Xiao Hua, saying, "This is the image of the nascent soul cultivators of the Dawn Rain continent. Of course, I can't guarantee that I won't miss any of them. Also, I don't have the ability to find all the dead or missing nascent soul cultivators." Xiao Hua took the jade slip and scanned it with his divine sense for a moment. His face turned cold as he said, "No need to say any more, I've already seen the faces of those two nascent soul cultivators." Oh. Zhang Qingxiao was delighted and said, "Are you sure? Will they change their appearance?" At that time I had just condensed my core. In their eyes that chase was inevitable. At first they hid their figure and appearance, but in the end when they really tracked me down they were already unscrupulous. Why would they think of changing their appearance? Xiao Hua said coldly, "These two nascent soul cultivators are Shan Xingzi from the Immortal Ascension Sect and Daoist Dui from the Immortal Music Sect. The Immortal Ascension Sect and the Immortal Music Sect of Meng Country?" Zhang Qingxiao was at a loss. She scratched her head and said curiously, "Before the Sword War, you seem to have never been to Meng Country, right? How could you offend the Immortal Ascension Sect and the Immortal Music Sect? Could it be that you suddenly snatched the two daughters of these two nascent soul cultivators?" "I've been thinking about this for a long time. It shouldn't be something that happened after I went to Shanghuaming." Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes and said, "If it's related to the two sects of Meng Country, it should be something that happened before I went to Shanghuaming. However, the problem is that I can't remember anything before Shanghuaming. If there's no accident, my soul was searched. I'm afraid this soul search has something to do with these two nascent soul cultivators." "You." Zhang Qingxiao was about to speak, but Xiao Hua spoke first. "Second senior brother, I'll talk about this after I see senior sister. How should we deal with your 100 Herbs sect now? Since you've come back and are ready to avenge Master, this 100 Herbs sect naturally doesn't need to exist anymore." Zhang Qingxiao thought for a moment and said, "According to our previous agreement, reinstate Shanghuaming." "Shanghuaming?" Xiao Hua hesitated slightly and replied, "Shanghuaming is not very suitable. I'll explain the specific reasons to second senior brother and senior sister later. After I finish you can make a decision. At this time, you can take away the disciples of the Heavenly Devil sect in the 100 Herbs sect. The other disciples of the 100 Herbs sect can stay." "Well said." Zhang Qingxiao nodded and agreed, "I'll personally go down and give the order." Great Sect Master Zhang, please." Xiao Hua smiled and raised his hand. Xiao Hua, Zhang Qingxiao and Yuan Ye descended from the sky. Zhang Qingxiao ordered the Heavenly Demon Sect's disciples to withdraw, then took out the 100 Herbs Gates Gate Chief's token and ordered all 100 Herbs Gates disciples to rest. Xiao Hua ordered Xiong Yi and Li Xiang to reorganize the Fortune Gate's disciples in preparation for the establishment of the Fortune Gate. After everything was arranged, Zhang Qingxiao brought Xiaohua and flew to the Cherishing Flower Peak. As Xiaohua expected, the herb garden on the Cherishing Flower Peak was still the same. Several early gold core cultivators were hidden near the herb garden. Obviously they were sent by Zhang Qingxiao to protect Xiao Xinrui. Seeing Zhang Qingxiao appear, everyone flew out to greet her. Zhang Qingxiao looked at everyone and thought for a moment. She took out some rewards from her bosom and ordered them to return. She then said to Xiaohua, "Junior brother, I've withdrawn these experts. I'll leave junior sister's safety to you. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, donate and..." Chapter 5102. Don't worry, second senior brother. Xiaohua said as he activated the Kunlun mirror, sending out 10 Fortune Gate disciples with Severing Divinity Realm Cultivation, and ordered them to protect the Cherishing Flower Peak. Your grandmother? Zhang Qingxiao cursed when he saw the 10 disciples whose cultivation he couldn't see through. You're just showing off in front of me. After she finished speaking, Zhang Qingxiao's figure landed in front of the herb garden on Shihua Peak. She raised her hand and lightly knocked on the wooden door of the herb garden. Xiaohua could clearly see that the herb garden was enveloped by a powerful array. Although there was no sound when Zhang Qingxiao knocked on the wooden door, the movement of the array had already spread into the herb garden. Sure enough, a moment later, Xiao Xinrui's familiar voice sounded, "Who is it?" "Junior sister, it's me." Zhang Qingxiao's voice was lower and gentler. "Oh, it's second senior brother." Although Xiao Xinrui's voice was very affectionate, there was also a trace of disappointment. "You haven't been to Yellow Flower Ridge for a long time." As the wooden door opened, a corner of the array was torn open. Xiao Xinrui walked out and said, "Today I don't know." Before Xiao Xinrui could finish, she had already seen Xiaohua's thin and tall figure behind Zhang Qingxiao. Xiao Xinrui was stunned on the spot. She stared at Xiaohua, her lips trembling. She wanted to say something but couldn't. Finally, she mustered all her strength and asked in a low and hoarse voice, "Where's Lu'er?" "Lu'er is fine." Xiaohua had just seen Zhang Qingxiao, and the feelings in his heart had already been vented. At this time he wasn't too excited and only said with a smile, "Moreover, he has already become the Buddhist sect's Buddha of Xuanji merit and has become an existence revered by thousands of Buddhas." Lu'er. Finally hearing the news that her child was safe, Xiao Xinrui couldn't bear it anymore. Her whole body seemed to have been drained of strength and she collapsed to the ground. The life spirit tablet that Zhang Qingxiao had refined in the past appeared in her right hand. Back then Xiaohua only said that he would take Jianghu to find a Buddhist sect expert, but she didn't expect that it would be more than 600 years. It had been more than 600 years and his fate was unknown. Today he finally heard the news, but he still couldn't see the flesh and blood he had been longing for day and night. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent. He hurriedly raised his hand to support Xiao Xinrui. Although his eyes were red, he still said, "Senior sister, I'm very sorry. You can't see Lu'er for the time being." "Why?" Xiao Xinrui raised her hand and grabbed Xiaohua's arm tightly as if she had used all her strength. She cried, "Even if he has become a Buddha, he is still my child. Why can't I see him?" "It's very simple," Xiaohua answered honestly. "Because the realm Lu'er is in, is not the Dawn Rain continent." Interface. Xiao Xinrui was stunned and asked curiously, "What does interface mean? Could it be that Lu'er is not in the Dawn Rain continent?" Xiaohua looked at Xiao Xinrui's white hair and wrinkled face with heartache. He instantly thought of old G-Man in the Hudu village. These two mothers had both taken the rejuvenation pill. Although his rejuvenation pill was magical, it couldn't resist the poison of longing for their children in their hearts. Xiaohua sighed with emotion at the innate love of the mothers in the world. He said, "Senior sister, don't worry. Please go back to the medicine garden and let me tell you slowly." "Yes, yes." Xiao Xinrui hurriedly wiped the tears on her face and said apologetically, "Look at me. You haven't come back for hundreds of years. As soon as you came back, I blocked the door and didn't even let you in. If Lu'er knew, he would scold me again. Quick, quick, come in." Speaking of this, Xiao Xinrui saw Yuanya behind Xiaohua and Zhang Qingxiao. She asked doubtfully, This is my disciple?" Xiaohua hurriedly said, "Yeah, come and pay your respects." Disciple greets martial aunt. Yuanya didn't dare to neglect and hurriedly stepped forward and bowed. Xiao Xinrui couldn't see through Yuanya's strength. She hurriedly helped him up. Xiaohua's heart moved and said, "Yeah, this is Chuanzang's mother. You also know about Chuanzang's sutra Seeking in Paradise." Xiaohua actually didn't remember whether Yuanya knew about Chuanzong's sutra seeking in paradise or whether Chu Yuanya had seen Chuanzong. He just wanted to make Xiao Xinrui feel at ease. Xiaohua's words fell into Yuanya's ears. Yuanya's face was full of reverence. After saluting Xiao Xinrui, he stood up and said, "Martial aunt, so you are Chuanzong's mother. Although disciple has never seen you, disciple has heard of Chuanzong's deeds of walking for nearly 300 years. His footprints have traveled all over the hidden immortal continent and paradise. Thousands of Buddhist believers in the hidden immortal continent, hundreds of millions of good men and women have obtained paradise because of Chuanzong's merits. This kind of tenacity, this kind of kindness to the world, disciple will never be able to achieve it even if disciple cultivates for a lifetime." Yuanya was naturally not good with words, but it was these pertinent words in Xiao Xinrui's ears that felt real. She smiled proudly and said, "This is what he should do. When he was still young he had a great ambition. Now that he can finally realize it, I am happy for him. I hope that you can help each other in the future and do more useful things for the people of the world." "Yes, disciple understands." Yuanya nodded. "Disciple will learn more from senior brother." Xiaohua saw that Xiao Xinrui's spirit was greatly uplifted. In just a few breaths, the previous depression and worry were swept away. He was also quite happy. Knowing that his move was completely correct, he ordered, "Yeah, you stay here and guard. I will say a few words to your martial uncles. Don't let others disturb us." Disciple understands. Yuanya stepped back and stood at the side of the medicine garden's gate. "Let the child come in and sit." Xiao Xinrui saw Yuanya as if she saw Jianghu. She said with some distress, "It's not easy to return to Yellow Flower Ridge. You should also take a rest." "Let's go." Zhang Qingxiao rolled her eyes at Xiaohua and said to Xiao Xinrui, "Just let him be your guard. A cultivator comparable to a cultivator in the crossing tribulation stage is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to guard the herb garden of Shihua Peak." Xiao Xinrui was surprised. She looked at Yuanya in disbelief. She really didn't expect that this cultivator, who felt like her own child, was actually so high. Lure is more powerful than him. Xiaohua only said one sentence, but Xiao Xinrui's proud tears fell like rain. Zhang Qingxiao was speechless. He really didn't understand how a woman could cry so much. Xiao Xinrui was like this and Zhang Yutong was also like this. However, he knew that at this time, it was absolutely not appropriate to speak. He only needed to wait patiently. In the end, the sky would clear up after the rain. Sure enough, in less than half a cup of tea's time, Xiao Xinrui smiled again. Compared to before, she was much more charming. She said with a smile, "I've let you see a joke. Quickly come in." Xiaohua's understanding was no worse than Zhang Qingxiao's. At this time, just like Zhang Qingxiao, he didn't say a word and quietly followed Xiao Xinrui into the medicine garden. However, when he saw the situation of the medicine garden, his heart couldn't help but moisten. The medicine garden was still the same medicine garden. For hundreds of years there hadn't been any special changes. The medicine field hadn't been opened up too much, and there weren't too many spiritual herbs planted. The tender green spiritual herbs and the fluttering spiritual flowers swayed gently in the wind. Everything was so quiet that Xiaohua suddenly felt that he had returned to the past. However, unlike before, there was a tent set up with a restriction in the medicine garden. This was also where Jianghu had fallen into silence. If it wasn't unexpected, Xiao Xinrui should have lived here for the past hundreds of years by relying on her longing. Sure enough, Xiao Xinrui walked into the tent. Xiaohua and Zhang Qingxiao looked at each other, their eyes full of bitterness, and followed her in. The inside of the tent was extremely simple and crude. There was only a futon, a jade cabinet, and nothing else. The jade cabinet didn't have any restriction. At a glance, Xiaohua knew that most of the clothes inside were the clothes worn by Jianghu when he was young. His nose couldn't help but sour. "Second senior brother, little junior brother, you can sit anywhere you want." Xiao Xinrui said apologetically. "I don't have anything here." It's fine, it's fine." Without waiting for Zhang Qingxiao to speak, Xiaohua hurriedly took out 2 futons and threw them on the ground. He and Zhang Qingxiao took one each. Then he took out a jade table and placed some spiritual fruits on it. The spiritual fruits were tempting, and the immortal peach smelled sweet, but how could Xiao Xinrui have any appetite? She held back her eagerness. When Xiaohua placed the spiritual fruits on the table, she asked impatiently, "Little junior brother, quickly tell me about Lure's situation these years." "Okay." Xiaohua picked up an immortal peach and handed it to Xiao Xinrui. "Senior sister, try it first. You tell me first." Xiao Xinrui didn't even look at the immortal peach and said, "It won't be too late for me to eat after you finish." Xiao Hua then handed the immortal peach to Zhang Qingxiao. After thinking for a moment he said, "Then I'll tell you everything about leaving the Dawn Rain continent." Then Xiao Hua once again gave a general account of his experience, among which he talked about Jianghu's matter and the matter of Nirvana scripture seeking in particular detail. Although the words came from Xiao Hua's mouth and Xiao Xinrui's ears, it was as if she was drifting on the river with Jianghu. It was as if she was climbing the steep mountain ridges of the Nirvana realm, the boundless land of the hidden immortal continent. Her expression was sometimes nervous, sometimes relaxed. In the end, when she heard Xiao Hua say that Jianghu had attained the Buddha of Xuanji meritorious virtue, a tranquil Buddhist light appeared on her face. After Xiao Hua finished talking about Jianghu's journey to the west, he hesitated for a moment and stopped. He smiled and handed the immortal peach to Xiao Xinrui. "Senior sister, this is all I know about Luer. Now he's already an extraordinary figure in the Buddhist sect. He doesn't need my protection anymore. He has the attention of the gods and Buddhas all over the sky. He has the heavy trust of hundreds of millions of believers on his shoulders. Although he's your boy, he's also the Buddha Lord of the Buddhist kingdom." P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 5103. Buddha Lord. Zhang Qingxiao had been possessed by a demon. Hearing this he was shocked. Of course he knew about the past, present and future Buddha Lords of the Buddhist sect, but he didn't know who this Buddha of Xuanji merit was. However, Zhang Qingxiao didn't ask too much. Whether the Buddha Lord was the Buddha Lord or not, it didn't have anything to do with him, a little devil. He didn't know how many years later he, a devil, and the Buddha Lord that Xiao Hua spoke of, would have a lot of disputes. Yes. Xiao Xinrui smiled happily, tears flowing down her cheeks. "I know, but I still can't let it go. Since he already got the Buddha fruit, why did he go west? Where is he heading west?" Xiao Hua naturally wouldn't tell Xiao Xinrui the secret of the Buddhist sect. He hesitated and smiled. "Luer is going west, to go back to the Dawn Rain continent, to Yellow Flower Ridge." "Ah?" Xiao Xinrui was shocked and looked at Xiao Hua incredulously. "Little junior brother, you said he's going to come back from the sea in the east?" Not only was Xiao Xinrui surprised, but Zhang Qingxiao was also confused. He had been to the Kuai Sea personally. He finally asked, "Since the three continents and the Dawn Rain continent are not in the same realm, how could Luer come from the Kuai Sea? There's an immortal formation here." Xiao Hua then told him the shocking secret that no one knew and the world-destroying mayfly of the three continents. "I knew it." Zhang Qingxiao heard and smiled bitterly. "How could you be willing to come back? So it's to save the world. If not, how could you be willing to cross the border and come back? You're such a sentimental good person, you can never change your character." "What's wrong with being a sentimental good person?" Xiao Xinrui retorted. "A sentimental good person can save people from disaster. This is a great merit." Xiao Xinrui was short-sighted and couldn't say anything. But hearing that Xiao Hua and Jianghu were merciful, she immediately stood on the side of Xiao Hua. Zhang Qingxiao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, "Junior sister, I'm not talking about this." However, as soon as he finished speaking he realized that it was impossible for him to get through to Xiao Xinrui, so he stopped and asked, "Forget it, let's not talk about this. Tell me about the matter of returning to Dawn Rain continent. It's definitely extremely difficult." "Sigh indeed." Xiao Hua nodded emotionally, then picked up another immortal peach and handed it to Xiao Xinrui. "Senior sister, this can make up for your lifespan. You should eat one too. You don't have much time left. If you don't eat, I'm afraid you won't be able to hold on until Luer returns." "All right." Hearing that they had to wait for Jianghu to come back, Xiao Xinrui no longer hesitated. She took the peach and ate it. If one was not enough, she would take another one. Zhang Qingxiao was a little dumbfounded. Looking at Xiao Xinrui who was eating in a somewhat embarrassing manner, she whispered, "Junior sister, we are Buddha mothers. Can you pay attention to your image? You're already a middle-aged woman, what image do you need?" Xiao Xinrui rolled her eyes at Zhang Qingxiao and continued to gnaw on the peach. Her white hair gradually turned black. "You eat. I'll eat too." Seeing this, Zhang Qingxiao hurriedly stretched out her hands, one in each hand, and started chewing. This rare situation made Xiao Hua think of Xiao Hongyue and Gong Mingwei. "Sai, the creation of heaven and earth is incomparably wonderful. Although this Xiao has just grasped the power of life and death, and also has the ability to resurrect the dead, but in the face of the passage of time, I still have no ability. Xiao Hua sighed and said in his heart, if this Xiao could really cultivate the light escape technique, would I be able to go against the light and resurrect Xiao Hongyue and Gong Mingwei when this Xiao had just arrived at Yellow Flower Ridge? Of course Xiao Hua was just thinking about it. After all, Xiao Hongyue and Gong Mingwei had already reincarnated. If he went against the light and resurrected them, what about their identities in this life? Even, could it be that their identities in many lives would be erased? This was a good fortune for Xiao Hongyue and Gong Mingwei, but for other identities, wouldn't it be a great injustice? After the two finished eating, Xiao Hua took out some spirit wine and invited the two to taste. He also accompanied them. While drinking, he told them the important things about passing through the 10,000 demon realm and the Yilin continent. Although Zhang Qingxiao had obtained the inheritance of the demon race, her vision was still not enough, let alone Xiao Xinrui. The two listened to the story as if they were listening to a book. In the end, Zhang Qingxiao even clapped her hands and said, "Little junior brother, your experience is too wonderful. If I didn't know that you wouldn't lie to me, I would definitely think that you made this up." Xiao Hua touched his nose and drank a mouthful of spirit wine. This little brother also wants to treat these things as nothingness, treat everything as an ethereal dream. Unfortunately, the billions of creatures in the 3 continents are waiting for this little brother. Damn it! Zhang Qingxiao suddenly realized, isn't Lu also under the threat of the world exterminating ephemera? Why didn't you bring him with you? Xiao Xinrui instantly became nervous. Senior sister, second senior brother, don't worry. Xiao Hua replied, the West Sea is now the world of our Fortune Gate. As long as Lu enters the West Sea, he will be protected by the Fortune Gate's disciples. If Lu is harmed, our Fortune Gate will be destroyed. Moreover, the Mahavairakana World Lord and the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord are still in the Pure Land. They won't let Lu get hurt. That's good. Xiao Xinrui heaved a sigh of relief. However, Zhang Qingxiao asked curiously, where is the Maitreya Buddha World Lord? He came back with this little brother to save the world. Xiao Hua didn't hide anything and replied, damn it, if that's the case, you still have the nerve to drink here? Zhang Qingxiao jumped up and said, hurry up and break the formation. Second senior brother. Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, this is an immortal formation. It's very likely that it was laid down by some heavenly lord or immortal king. How can it be so easy to break? Damn it, heavenly lord? Immortal king? Hearing this, Zhang Qingxiao curled the corner of her mouth and said, I don't know much, so don't lie to me. How can those high and mighty fellows care about the matters of the Dawn Rain continent? This little brother doesn't know the specific situation. Xiao Hua replied, but this little brother knows that this great formation is already erected between the 3 continents and the Dawn Rain continent. If we can't find the trick to breaking the formation, even 100 little brothers won't be able to break the formation with just strength. You haven't even seen it, so how do you know it won't work? Zhang Qingxiao sat down dejectedly and didn't forget to ask. Actually, when this little brother came out from the Million Ming Mountains, I already went to the Taiching sect's Heaven, Earth, and Mortal Peaks to take a look. Xiao Hua's spring and autumn movement technique trembled slightly and said with a smile, however, this little brother couldn't find any traces of breaking the formation from the 3 peaks. Other than being helpless, I was at my wit's end, so I could only put it down for now. Speaking until here, Xiao Hua looked at Zhang Qingxiao and said, Second Senior Brother's Heavenly Devil sect is spread all over the Dawn Rain continent. If possible, Second Senior Brother, please lend this little brother a hand. My Heavenly Devil sect? Zhang Qingxiao sneered, my Heavenly Devil sect can't compare to the Fortune Gate in front of us, nor can it compare to the Fortune Gate spread all over the Dawn Rain continent. Do you still need my help? Although Zhang Qingxiao said so, he still hurriedly got up and left in a hurry. A moment later he returned and said, this old man has issued the Heavenly Devil order. I hope it can help you a little, but don't hold any hope. This kind of ancient secret is probably only known by the Tao Cultivation sects and Swords Gate with long inheritances. Yes, this little brother also knows this. Xiao Hua nodded. This little brother is waiting for a suitable opportunity to announce this matter to the world. You're thinking too much. Zhang Qingxiao coldly said, what does the life and death of the 3 continents have to do with the Dawn Rain continent? Only a merciful person like you would consider it, other cultivators would only listen with one ear and throw out the other. Then let the Fortune Gate's Iron Army sweep through the entire Dawn Rain continent. Xiao Hua said indifferently, Break through these sects one by one and explore their forbidden areas. Little junior brother? Xiao Xinrui was a little confused and asked curiously, why don't I understand? Isn't the Fortune Gate a sect that rose in the last few hundred years? What does it have to do with you? Junior sister doesn't know. Zhang Qingxiao said with interest, the Fortune Gate worships Taoist Xiao is this little junior brother in front of you. He is the true leader of the Fortune Gate. Xiao Xinrui opened her mouth in surprise and said after a while, if that's the case, then little junior brother does have the potential to flatten the 3 countries. You're only talking about potential, junior sister, you go and see for yourself. Zhang Qingxiao stood up and said, the current Yellow Flower Ridge is no longer the 100 Herbs Gates world, but the Fortune Gate's mountain gate. What's going on? Xiao Xinrui was stunned and then said, I'm sorry, second senior brother, this concubine hasn't asked about the 100 Herbs Gate for a long time. What happened at Yellow Flower Ridge? This concubine doesn't know. It's not your fault. Zhang Qingxiao waved her hand and said, you're not the person to be the sect master, and I'm already very satisfied that you've been here for so long. Haha. Xiao Hua saw the 2 of them stand up, and he hurriedly stood up and said, little brother came back this time with the intention of reorganizing Shanghuaming, but there are some unforeseen circumstances. Then Xiao Hua accompanied Xiao Xinrui and Zhang Qingxiao out of the herb garden, and briefly explained the matter of Dark Flower. Xiao Xinrui and Zhang Qingxiao frowned when they heard that Shanghuaming's origin was so strange, and that it was actually founded by the demonic beast race's great sage, and that many ancestors were killed by the founder. Finally Xiao Hua said, little brother has captured Dark Flower, and I have already settled all the karma between him and me. Moreover, Dark Flower took the initiative to ask me, Shanghuaming, not to mention his name again, so I want to put my Fortune Gate in Yellow Flower Ridge. However, Shanghuaming is the sect of second senior brother, senior sister, and little brother, so this matter will be decided by the 2 of you. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it a reward, and thank you for all kinds of support. Chapter 5104. This is your Fortune Gate's disciple? Xiao Xinrui felt a little dizzy when she saw so many Zhuji disciples and Jindan realm cultivators flying in the air and busily tidying up the ground. Her aptitude was not good, and she was not particularly diligent in cultivation. Now she was only in the early stage of Jindan realm. She had never seen so many Jindan realm cultivators. Yes. Xiao Hua nodded and waved his hand. Xiong Yi and Li Xiang, who had been paying attention, hurriedly flew over and bowed, Master. Facing the 2 Fortune Gate sect masters, Xiao Hua couldn't be as casual as he was with Yuanya. He smiled and pointed at Zhang Qingxiao and Xiao Xinrui, this is Master's second senior brother and senior sister. Juniors greet seniors. Xiong Yi and Li Xiang didn't dare to neglect and hurriedly bowed. These are my Fortune Gate sect masters. Xiao Hua introduced them to Xiao Xinrui and Zhang Qingxiao. Seeing the 2 nascent soul realm cultivators' extraordinary auras, Xiao Xinrui understood and hurriedly bowed, greeting sect masters. Zhang Qingxiao had no choice but to follow suit. Xiong Yi and Li Xiang hurriedly dodged and modestly said, we don't dare, we don't dare. Why aren't you the sect master? Zhang Qingxiao stood up and said with jealousy, handing over the sect's affairs to your disciple and being a hands-off shopkeeper? Senior doesn't know. Since he knew Zhang Qingxiao was Xiao Hua's second senior brother, Xiong Yi didn't hide anything and said with a smile, my master is the Fortune Gate's first senior brother. First senior brother? Zhang Qingxiao's eyes turned green when he heard this. He clapped his hands and exclaimed, this name sounds good, why didn't I think of it? Xiao Xinrui asked curiously, since it's the first senior brother, then, isn't there also the second senior brother? Li Xiang proudly said, of course my Fortune Gate has a total of 10 sect masters. 10? This time it was Zhang Qingxiao's turn to be stunned. After a long time, he squeezed out a jealous expression and said, the other 9 sect masters in your family have the same cultivation as your master? Li Xiang felt that this senior Zhang Qingxiao was quite interesting, so he smiled and said, some are stronger than master, some are weaker than master, but they are all supreme beings of the human race. Damn it. Zhang Qingxiao jumped to his feet and shouted, you're already a supreme of the human race but you didn't even report to me. With a Fortune Gate like you, why would I embarrass the 100 Herbs Gate? Xiao Xinrui did not hesitate. She smiled and said, junior brother, since the Fortune Gate has such strength, there is no need for Shanghuaming to exist. However, I hope that you can leave the herb garden on Cherishing Flower Peak behind. I still have to wait for Lu to return there. Senior, please don't worry. Li Xiang understood and hurriedly said, Junior has already looked around. These mountain peaks are actually not suitable to be our Fortune Gate's base. Cough cough. Xiong Yi hurriedly interrupted Li Xiang and said, the spiritual energy on these mountain peaks is the densest, but they are too small. Junior has already discussed with senior brother Li to send 100 disciples to the back of the mountain to search for a suitable place for our Fortune Gate's disciples to cultivate. Of course, we still have to consider how to lay out the sect's protective array, so senior need not worry. Junior will leave these mountain peaks as Shang Huaming's base. We will firmly protect this place. Hee, since that's the case, master won't care. We'll do as you say. Xiao Hua was happy to hear this. This was a way to get the best of both worlds. How could he not support it? Let's start with Shang Huaming from master. Zhang Qingxiao suggested. He fell for Shang Huaming. We can't forget that. Good. Xiao Hua clapped and said, second senior brother is right. Junior doesn't know any of the other ancestors. Master is more familiar. Thank you, second senior brother. Thank you, junior brother. Xiao Xinrui smiled and said to the two of them, a few hundred years was enough to dilute the sorrow of death. Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat and he asked Li Xiang, where are Lu Qingyu and Yue Hua? Oh, they're over there. Li Xiang raised his hand and pointed. Some disciples were exploring Yellow Flower Ridge, and Lu Qingyu was among them, but looking at Lu Qingyu's lazy appearance, there was nothing special. Xiao Hua smiled and said, this guy's cultivation is a little slack, you have to supervise him more. Yes, disciple understands. Li Xiang answered. Forget it, you two go to your work. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, since our Fortune Gate wants to establish a sect here, there are many things to do. Yes. Li Xiang looked at Xiong Yi and the two of them said in unison, Master, please send out the Kunlun Immortal Domain's disciples. Xiao Hua slapped his forehead and said, I forgot, this kind of thing was done by your martial uncle Lightning. Saying this, Xiao Hua took out the Kunlun mirror, and under the urging of his magic power, a stream of Fortune Gate's disciples flew out from the light pillar. After Xiao Hua sent out the Fortune Gate's disciples from the soaring Dragon Mountain range, Li Xiang and Xiong Yi left with these disciples. Zhang Qingxiao sighed and said, Junior brother, you can dominate the Dawn Rain mainland. In the future there won't be any Sword Dao war on the Dawn Rain mainland. If you, a Fortune Gate's disciple, go out, what bullshit 3 countries, what bullshit Huan country sword cultivators, who would dare to say a word? Hee. Xiao Xinrui giggled and said, that's right. Sword cultivators and Dao cultivators won't fight anymore. Then there will be a war between the Fortune Gate and the Dao and sword cultivators. That's a matter for the future. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, Junior brother wants to know the current situation of the Dawn Rain mainland's Fortune Gate. You don't even know your own sect? Zhang Qingxiao asked curiously, you still need to ask us? Xiao Hua nodded and said, speaking of which, I'm a little ashamed. When junior brother was at the Sword Tomb that day, it was just a spur-of-the-moment idea to give Zhong Haoren and the other Qi Refinement Realm disciples a place to stay, so I gave them some cultivation techniques and spirit stones to find a place to establish the Fortune Gate on the Dawn Rain mainland. But junior brother never imagined that it would be on such a scale now. This is what it means to plant flowers but not to grow, but to plant a willow unintentionally and the willow grows. Xiao Xinrui giggled and said, although I don't know the specific situation, I have heard some things about the Fortune Gate. It's said that this is an extremely mysterious sect. They are not from the same sect, but they all worship Taoist Shao and call themselves Fortune Gate's disciples. Moreover, these sects' disciples' cultivation progress is extremely fast, so later on, many sects that aren't Fortune Gate also insist that they are Fortune Gate. Alright, it seems that there is still a dispute between the real and fake Fortune Gate. Zhang Qingxiao didn't say much. He took out a few jade slips and handed them to Xiao Hua, saying, all the information about the Fortune Gate is here. When the Fortune Gate first appeared, I didn't pay much attention, but when I heard that they were worshipping Taoist Shao, I immediately thought of the grain seeds you ordered my heavenly demon sect to distribute. I had my disciples investigate and sure enough, it was related to you, so I sent some disciples to infiltrate the Fortune Gate. This is all the information about the Fortune Gate. Sweat. Xiao Hua received the jade slips and smiled wryly. Second senior brother really thinks highly of the Fortune Gate. However, Xiao Hua understood the meaning of Zhang Qingxiao's words. He quickly stopped smiling wryly and respectfully saluted, Junior brother thanks second senior brother for protecting junior brother's reputation. And it's good that you understand. Zhang Qingxiao accepted Xiao Hua's salute and said with a nod, "But it's strange. The Fortune Gate should be an alliance, but there aren't many sinister people among them." There aren't any sinister people among them. Xiao Hua had already sent his divine sense into the jade slips, saying coldly, "When junior brother was in the sword tomb, I entrusted Zhong Haoren, Fei Yunshu, Zhong Zhan, Qin Ji, and Zhong Pei to take care of my storage pouch. Now, other than Zhong Haoren and Fei Yunshu, the other three have betrayed the Fortune Gate. Moreover, Qin Ji and Zhong Pei's names aren't even mentioned in your jade slips. It's obvious that they took my storage pouch and fled halfway with Zhong Haoren. It's your fault." Zhang Qingxiao retorted, "Who asked you to trust them so much? They're just qi refining disciples, yet you gave them so many spirit stones and spiritual herbs, they'd be fools if they didn't run away." Zhong Haoren and Fei Yunshu are fools. Xiao Hua harumphed coldly, "They're stupid enough to become the Fortune Gate's gate chief." "Their gate chief? I'm afraid he won't be able to sit still." Zhang Qingxiao said, "Keep watching that Zhong Zhan also established a Fortune Gate, he's competing with them on the same stage. Moreover, there are so many small sects that have raised the Fortune Gate's banner, and the Fortune Gate's influence is growing. Zhong Haoren and Fei Yunshu no longer have the strength to command this huge Fortune Gate." Listening to Zhang Qingxiao's words, Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at the jade slips, muttering under his breath, "Chu Hong Sect, Cloud Pavilion Fort, Burning Crane Union, Fishing Isle, Heavenly Valiant Pavilion, Yen Sun Manor, Bright Wisdom Pavilion, Yuanfeng Stronghold. What kind of sects are these? Why do they all claim to be my Fortune Gate's disciples?" "That's right. Zhang Qingxiao laughed, "Don't underestimate these small sects, most of them were established by rogue cultivators. Over the years, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth had changed. The cultivation families had risen, and the cultivation sects had declined. Some individual cultivators had also obtained opportunities. They tried their best to establish small sects in the three kingdoms of cultivation and even the Huan Kingdom. These small sects looked very small, but if they were united, they would not be inferior to those real sects. Therefore, junior brother, you don't know, other than this daddy's heavenly demon sect, there are many other large sects that have the idea of establishing a Fortune Gate, all of them coveting Taoist Zhao's golden signboard. If it weren't for the fact that they don't know the art of transformation, or that Taoist Zhao's transformation couldn't deceive the Fortune Gate's disciples, they would have already transformed into your appearance to deceive the world. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, bookmark, gift, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 5105. You don't need to say that. Xiao Hua sneered. Little brother already knew that there would be people who would disguise themselves as Taoist Xiao to deceive people. That's just a small trick. Zhang Qingxiao waved her hand and said, "There are more people who want to replace you. Forget it, let's not talk about this." Xiao Hua put away the jade slip and said, "Our Fortune Gate is already preparing to establish a sect on the Dawn Rain mainland. These sects will merge into our Fortune Gate sooner or later." "That's true." Zhang Qingxiao smiled and said, "These small matters can be dealt with by your two disciples. It's not your turn to deal with them." "Hee, second senior brother, don't be impatient." Xiao Hua looked at Zhang Qingxiao and said meaningfully, "Little brother knows that you want to meet our Fortune Gate's other masters, but now is not the right time. How about I introduce you to them after I'm done with my matters?" Zhang Qingxiao rolled her eyes at Xiao Hua and said, "Who said I want to meet them? Why would I want to meet them?" Xiao Hua smiled and ignored Zhang Qingxiao. He turned to Xiao Xinrui and asked, "Senior sister, do you remember when Master picked me up?" Xiao Xinrui smiled and said, "Do you still need to ask? Not to mention me, even second senior brother knows." "I didn't ask Master in detail that year. You can tell me briefly?" Xiao Hua asked. Xiao Xinrui saw that Xiao Hua was serious and told him what she knew. Then she asked, "Little junior brother, why are you suddenly asking about this today?" Zhang Qingxiao said, "When little junior brother was picked up by Master, he had already lost his memory. He suspected that his soul had been searched. Moreover, when he left the Dawn Rain mainland, he was chased by two nascent soul cultivators. Xiao Xinrui's cultivation talent was not good, but she was still an intelligent person. When she heard this, she understood something and exclaimed, 'Could it be that two nascent soul cultivators joined hands to search his soul?' Xiao Hua sneered and said, 'How could it be so simple? Not only was little brother's soul searched, even little brother's Dantian and Naiwan Palace were sealed.' Damn it. Hearing this, Xiao Xinrui's expression changed and she said angrily, "Who is so hateful? Those two nascent soul cultivators? Although they are powerful, they are still not powerful enough to make millions of Meng Mountain's elders fear them." Xiaohua replied. According to what little brother knows, it was done by at least 2 divinity-severing cultivators. Spirit-severing stage adept. Not to mention Xiao Xinrui, even Zhang Qingxiao was shocked. She asked curiously, "Little junior brother, you weren't even at the first level of qi refining that day. How could 2 spirit-severing cultivators seal you?" Facing his 2 relatives, Xiaohua didn't hide anything and said, "Because I'm not a cultivator from Dawn Rain Continent. I might have come from another world. Other realms?" Zhang Qingxiao rolled her eyes and understood. She said, "Your cultivation technique is different from the Dawn Rain Continent. You cultivate the Mud Pill Palace in the Middle Dantian?" "Not bad." Xiaohua nodded and said, "So little brother suspects that when I broke into the realm, I was unconscious because of the influence of the realm's law. That was why the 2 spirit-severing cultivators took advantage of me and sealed me and searched my soul." Xiao Xinrui also echoed, "The problem is, little junior brother, I can understand why they searched your soul. I'm afraid they wanted to know where you came from. But why did they seal you? They're not your enemies, are they? If they were your enemies, they could have just killed them directly. Why would they let you go for no reason?" This is where little brother's doubts lie. Xiaohua looked at Zhang Qingxiao and said, "Now I know that it was Shan Shizi from Immortal Ascension Sect and Immortal Dui from Shinla Sect who chased after me. But I don't know who sent them, and I don't know the intention of those people behind the scenes. Just destroy Immortal Ascension Sect and Immortal Lu Sect." Zhang Qingxiao suggested, "It's better to let them go than to let them go." Xiaohua rolled his eyes at Zhang Qingxiao and said, "You know I won't do that." "Then we can only rack our brains to analyze the situation that day." Zhang Qingxiao shrugged and said, "The spirit-severing cultivators from the 2 big sects won't come out easily. Why did they join hands to deal with you, a little cultivator?" "Yes, how did father meet you that day?" Xiao Xinrui frowned as if she was thinking about something. But suddenly she looked at Zhang Qingxiao like thunder. Zhang Qingxiao's eyes naturally flashed with a strange color. The 2 of them said in unison, "Imperial Demon Valley. The battle between immortals and demons." "The battle between immortals and demons?" Xiaohua asked curiously, "Are you talking about the battle between immortals and demons in the Imperial Demon Valley?" "Yes." Zhang Qingxiao thought of the Imperial Demon Valley and seemed to have a feeling of connecting all thoughts. She clapped her hands and said, "It must be the battle between immortals and demons. Except for the battle between immortals and demons, there is no other thing in this world that can make the spirit-severing cultivators of the 2 big sects come out." Back then, Master went to the vicinity of the demon-resisting valley to see if there were any opportunities. However, his cultivation was shallow and his skin was thin, so he was too lazy to look for it. Thus, he returned empty-handed and picked you up on the way. And little brother, you must be a demon. It was in the battle between immortals and demons that you were injured and sealed by the 2 spirit-severing cultivators. Fortunately, you escaped from the Imperial Demon Valley. Otherwise, don't forget, how can you cultivate the cultivation method of my demon race faster than me? Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, "Little brother is not a demon. This has been confirmed, but since second brother mentioned the battle between immortals and demons in the Imperial Demon Valley, it is consistent with the time when little brother broke in. It must be during the battle between immortals and demons. Little brother broke into the Imperial Demon Valley and was discovered by the 2 spirit-severing cultivators. The question is, why did they seal little brother?" Xiao Xinrui said, "You have to ask the spirit-severing cultivators who participated in the battle between immortals and demons that day. However, what I want to ask is, how do you know that you broke in? Where did you come from?" "Where little brother came from, I'm not sure at the moment." Xiaohua shook his head and said, "But little brother found spirit pets and magic tools that crossed over with little brother from other places in the Dawn Rain continent, so little brother can be sure that he broke through the boundary and entered. If that's the case, then it's easy to handle." Zhang Qingxiao thought for a while and said, "You only need to get the list of those who participated in the battle between immortals and demons in the Imperial Demon Valley that day and know how many spirit-severing cultivators participated in the battle between immortals and demons in the Immortal Music Sect and Immortal Music Sect. Then you will immediately know the truth of the matter." "Where is the list?" Xiaohua frowned. "Haha." Zhang Qingxiao laughed and said, "This matter is very difficult for others, but it is very easy for me. Second brother is really resourceful. Xiao Hua was surprised. Haha, little brother, you don't know, but I have a chess piece beside the deputy leader of the Immortal Alliance. Zhang Qingxiao said proudly, this chess piece has seen you several times in the early years. Oh. Xiao Hua was surprised and asked, why is there an Immortal Alliance in the Dawn Rain continent? This person is called Zhang Zhihao, a confidant of the deputy leader of the Immortal Alliance, Luo Xingtian. Zhang Qingxiao said, this Immortal Alliance usually has no use. It is used to mobilize troops in the great battle between immortals and demons. It is normal that you don't know. Zhang Zhihao. Xiao Hua frowned and said, little brother seems to have killed a cultivator called Zhang Zhihao in the past. No way. Zhang Qingxiao was a bit stunned and immediately waved his hand and said, then it must be the same name. Wait a moment, I will send a message and let him find the list of those who participated in the great battle between immortals and demons. Xiao Hua knew that this Zhang Zhihao must be a great secret of Zhang Qingxiao. In order to help him find the truth of the matter, Zhang Qingxiao sent a message at the risk of Zhang Zhihao being discovered, so Xiao Hua hurriedly waved his hand and said, second brother, there is no need to be so anxious. How can I not be anxious? Zhang Qingxiao said, the news of you returning to the Dawn Rain continent has not spread yet. When those spirit-severing cultivators with ulterior motives know of your strength, they will definitely hide the matter of that day. Don't think that your strength is already heaven-defying, but if it is just you or your fortune gate, it may not be easy to find the truth of that day, so I have to get the list before them. After saying that, Zhang Qingxiao thought for a moment and said, I will go personally. Second brother? Seeing this, Xiao Hua smiled and said, don't be anxious, little brother will go with you, little brother still has something to tell you. Zhang Qingxiao looked at Xiao Hua and said, why are you in such a hurry? Stay here and accompany junior sister to talk for a while. No need, no need. Xiao Xinrui hurriedly waved her hand and said, you are all busy, I am alone. There are Fortune Gate disciples here to protect me, you don't have to worry. Okay. Zhang Qingxiao nodded and said, then you go and pass the sect master's order, let the 100 Herbs Gate disciples submit to the Fortune Gate. Little junior brother and I will leave first, we will come back to see you when we have time. Okay. Xiao Xinrui agreed. After bidding farewell to Zhang Qingxiao and Zhang Qingxiao, she flew to the vanishing worship peak. Xiao Hua, Yuanya and Zhang Qingxiao flew out of the Yellow Flower Ridge. They had only flown a little over 100 li when Xiao Hua stopped. He thought for a moment and said, second senior brother, wait here for a while, little brother will be back soon. Where are you going? Zhang Qingxiao was a little confused. Why don't you hurry? Xiao Hua smiled and said, just a while, little brother will be back soon. With that said, Xiao Hua activated his space escape technique and flew away, leaving Yuanya to accompany Zhang Qingxiao. Yeah. Seeing that there was no problem, Zhang Qingxiao tried to find a topic. Who are your Fortune Gate sect master and 10 old masters? This. Yuanya was not as good at grasping opportunities as Xiongyi. He was a little hesitant as he didn't know if Zhang Qingxiao knew these things. Seeing Yuanya's hesitation, Zhang Qingxiao waved her hand and said, if you can't say then don't say. Yuanya answered, let's wait for master to come back and ask him. Where did your master go? Zhang Qingxiao asked, looking in the direction Xiao Hua had flown. That seems to be the direction of Jianghu City. Junior doesn't know. Of course, Yuanya didn't know, so he answered blankly, P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian, vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a gift, and thank you for all kinds of support. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.